Hello, 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 friends. Oh my god, welcome back to our wonderful little place on the internet. You guys are catching me live from insert Emmy's exact address and docs here, wearing the same clothes as usual for these little streams because, we're trying to raise money for the initiative and it doesn't really mean much if I am changing my outfit every single time. So, get used to this look. I'm calling it my streaming uniform, as it may be. And I'm kind of getting sick of it, I'm not going to lie. But, I'm in it for the long haul. And so, you may notice this setup looks a bit different, a little tiny bit different to usual. And it's a couple of things, actually. So you'll have to help me. If you can hear a fan while I'm talking, it's because I just got a new fan because I've been complaining that it's been too hot. Like, the fish from Cat in the Hat. It's too hot. So I have a fan now. But if you can't hear it, that's fantastic because it's literally right next to me. And if I turn it even like a fraction more towards me, then you'll see the effect that it has. Look, I'll show you. It's like I'm in a fucking commercial or something. Wow. Hair blowing in the wind. I don't know, can you hear it now? I think so. I do like it just turned a bit away. So that works. Also, the background lighting, the pretty little projector galaxy starry night lights, try saying that 5 times fast, that I've been saying I also wanted to get are finally here. I'm still working on the positioning and I'm still working on how to figure out the webcam settings because I think it's throwing off the white balance. So now I notice I look a bit more tan or a slight tinge of yellow more than usual. I think it's just because the background coloring and oh, look at that, is just kind of throwing off the webcam. So bear with me. It's why, among a few reasons, the title of this stream for today is called We Only Upgrade because it's actually funny. I can't believe I haven't mentioned this to you guys before. It's another little like cherry lore for you guys to enjoy. It's a saying that my friends and I, a couple of my friends and I have, which I think fits perfectly into this year of thriving in 2025 and into this stream and this community, which I want to like talk to you guys a little bit about for the start of this stream. The idea of only upgrading. It's like whenever you change something in your life, no matter what happens, going through new phases, new jobs, new friends, that concept of only getting better, even if it seems a little bit sad or unfortunate at first, if you miss out on an opportunity or you fall out of favor with friends, or even if you break up with someone that you thought you're going to be with forever, that idea of like, well, to just kind of, I don't know, maybe somewhat delusionally at times, believe in that idea that things are going to work out all right. And even further than that, that whatever happens is kind of putting you on the right path towards, a better, more actualized, upgraded version of yourself or your surroundings, your profession, whatever it is. And so you guys can see here, we've upgraded slightly and hopefully we continue to upgrade because I don't like how this side is a little bit like barren. You know what I mean? Because I only have one projector. It's up here. You guys can see that? Look at my hands. And so you guys can see this side is a little bit, it's a little bit sad and empty. But I think by the next few streams, hopefully I'll have figured out a nice place to put it because I don't think I need 2 projectors. That's a bit overkill. I just need to find somewhere where the cord will reach that will actually fill as much of the background space as possible. So still in the process of upgrading. You know how it is. And so, yeah, it's a very liminal space. I agree. Visor, welcome in. Cody, Space, Weasel. Oh, yes. I wanted to thank you again for your donation. And Liam, oh, you guys don't know this actually, but Liam is actually my actual biological cousin. I know that I say about Starkers that he's my biological step cousin, but Liam in the chat is my actual genuine first cousin. And so if you guys see him about, please, liminal Liam, feel free to say hello, get to meet him. He's a very lovely individual and I'm sure you guys will get on fantastically, but he only pops in here and there. So if you guys are wondering like how we know each other, that's how. We're actual cousins. So you guys have met lots of people from my life thus far and I can't wait to introduce you to even more, which reminds me, guys, speaking of We Only Upgrade, I have been busy, my friends. I have been busy. I've been booked and busy, and so I apologize. I didn't stream yesterday, but that's when I was getting all this stuff ready. I also got my hands on a little arrangement. So you know how I was talking about inviting one of my friends, one of my best friends ever, onto the stream? I shot her a message the other day, and we kind of worked out some of the details. I actually shared your guys' idea, which was like a paint and sip and chip and dip scenario, and she was like, that sounds so adorable. I'm so down. So not this week, but next week on Saturday, my friend will be here, and it'll be roughly, I think, the same time as now, maybe a bit earlier, depending on when the thing all works out. But you're going to meet her for the first time, and it's going to be wonderful. You're going to fall absolutely head over heels in love. And yeah, we're going to do some like drawing, some just chatting. I'll do a bit of an interview style thing where you guys get to learn more about her, and I guess through her more about me, which is a little bit scary. And I can't wait. It's going to be fantastic. And she's a little bit shy, and so you guys will have to like go easy. But I feel like because you're all so welcoming, it'll just be like, you know, chatting with an old friend. That's how I feel like it's going to be. And so just be excited for that, guys, because holy shit, I've been meaning to get this happening for a while, and now it's finally on the horizon, and I absolutely can't wait. And so only upgrading, and I hope that goes for you guys too. And so if you have any like wins, any stories about like, you know, finding your own way and like suddenly leveling up, as it were, I'd love to hear it. Today's all about those kinds of stories. And again, I just wanted to say thank you to Weasel, who actually donated to this goal while I wasn't even streaming, which is a very funny, strange and endearing like scenario to happen. I got a little notification that popped up on my phone. I was like, oh, what the heck is this? Was this a mistake? And yeah, I just wanted to say thank you very kindly. I didn't realize who it actually was until I went onto Twitch and it said the little username there. So thank you very, very much. And yes, a virtual kiss. Unfortunately, virtual will have to do. So mwah, thank you very much. You guys will eventually see me in a different outfit than this. Oh my god, I feel like I literally have my fucking uniform on at this point. And so yeah, I can't wait to show you guys all the clothes, the magical wonder of yeah, just like fucking textile delight that awaits us, because there's some really cool pieces, some more cursed than others, like, you know, like usual. And yeah, a whole year you guys will get every single stream will be a new outfit, and so that's kind of it's a fun idea. And I should say that this is in USD, so if you're confused about the translation, like if you're anywhere else other than the United States, your donation might come up weirdly up here, but not to worry, because I still get the full intended amount in your own currency, and so that is extremely, extremely generous, and I thank you very much. You know, it actually helps with stuff like this, because I think the projector was about $70. The fan was about like $30 or $39, and so yeah, it kind of helps like little by little to increase the production value, even though I know a lot of it is still to be desired. And yeah, I could literally never have done this without you guys and your intense generosity. So all I can say is very, very deeply and very sincerely thank you from the bottom of my heart. And so we're getting there, guys. Like 365 days, $365. It seems all right to me. We've covered what's 65? 2 months, roughly 2 months, and like an extra week of days of new outfits. So that's going to be interesting. Oh my gosh. And so yeah, thank you so much, Weasel. I appreciate it. And I think that's the first time ever that I've gotten a donation like when I wasn't streaming. It's a very strange experience, like I was saying. And yeah, I'm intensely grateful. So thank you. And I'm sure you guys are all sick of this jumper at this point. I know I am for sure. And so yeah. Oh yeah, like I was saying, I've been very busy, and another reason why I didn't stream yesterday was because I was also updating the Poetry or Else website with my mum and checking out my mum's new fucking industrial printing room. So she turned my old bedroom into basically her own workshop with like a bunch of different printers, her computer, and her new Christmas present, which was a really beastly 3D printer, which we're hoping to make a bunch of little trinkets and fun little gadgets, doohickeys, fidget toys, etc., that we can put like some of them on the Poetry or Else store, some of them just for like giveaways and stuff. We've been testing it out so far because it's literally as brand new as can get. She just set it up like a few days ago. And besides the like you know, the first step things that you need to do and print and set up. We made something that I wanted to show you guys. It's in my hands right now. And I would have sold this, except after playtesting with it for not even like fucking 10 minutes, it already broke a little bit. So we're going to have to change some of the settings. But check this out, guys. Oh my God. It's an articulating dragon made out of like gradient colored plastic. One side's like blue, one side's purple. And I was playing with it because, you know, it's just delightful. And the tail kind of broke off. And so I think the reason for that is because when we were testing it out, my mum made the design a little bit smaller because she wanted it to print faster, you know, impatient type beat. And then, I don't know, I think that made it a bit more fragile. So you guys can see here, the tail here, it's cut off. And so this is not going out to anyone, or certainly not paid, because, you know, I want to give you guys the good shit. And this is what the testing is for, to see what works, what doesn't, and what needs a little bit of a touch up. And so, yeah, how cute. I was hoping you guys could help me name him or her, because this is my new pet, guys. You might see him just hanging about. I've actually seen these in stores, and I'm not sure how that works because I'm pretty sure it's illegal to sell things without the proper licensing. And so, let me chuck him on my shoulder here. Let me just chuck him on my shoulder. He actually kind of matches my whole outfit. I saw someone walking around parks actually with like one of these on each shoulder. And I was like, damn, that looks cool. Anyway, oh, wow, look at that. I need a name. And so you guys over the course of this stream will hopefully be able to help me. I have no doubt your creativity will just spring forth with a myriad of different names. And over time, you guys will see different little creations that we'll be making, we'll be whipping up in the store. And literally like from the golden cherries that we've been doing from like 2 years back when we started the Golden Cherry Awards every year, we could actually have like real, holdable, lookable, throwable golden cherries. And so that's kind of cool, right? That's still like further on in the works, but if we can make something like this, which, holy shit, I'm gonna give you guys a close-up if I can. Can you see that? I like Lizzie and Sandra. Those are both great. Oh, Celestia. That's good too. By the way, to our first-time chatters, welcome in. I'm not a voice actor, though I appreciate the compliment. That's a nice thing to say. I've gotten told before that I have a relaxing voice, a sleep-inducing voice, a boring voice, a nice voice, and all the different things in between. And so that means a lot to me. Thank you. But no, I do not do any voice acting, anything in general, because, yeah, I'm just a random on the internet. And today I look extra tan. And so if you guys are wondering, no, I do not look like this in real life. I look way more pale in real life. And a little bit less yellow, just a little bit though. And so, yeah. And if anyone is wondering, I'm not sure if it's still on my profile, but for my background, half Greek, half Egyptian, 100% Aussie. And so close enough to New Zealand. But yeah, what can I say? Isn't this so freaking cool? Look at that. Resting bitch voice is hilarious. Honestly, sometimes I feel like, because I'm supposedly, according to MBTI, I'm supposedly an extrovert, right? But I think I'm one of the most introverted extroverts that there ever could be, because I love people and I love spending time with people and getting to know them. But I can be very shy, very socially anxious, very awkward, to put it lightly. And so a lot of the times when I'm out in public, I do a lot of internal processing, like understanding what people are saying, understanding how I'm feeling about a scenario. And so on the outside, there's not much happening. I'm just like looking around, but on the inside, I'm having a great time. And so I hope people know that whether it's resting bitch face or resting bitch voice, like that is very relatable to me. It takes a little bit of like, what's a word? Like ice breaking or like melting the ice for me to really get into things so I can feel comfortable enough to make all the crazy weird faces, that come naturally to me in my normal state. I think ambivert would suit me very well, actually. I haven't looked too much into an ambivert because I kind of thought that everyone was slightly like that. But, it's like, for me, I feel like it depends on who I'm with, which sounds very, like everyone is like that. With my friends and family that I'm very close to, I'm just crazy and weird and strange. With people that I'm just meeting, I think I kind of dial back some of the weirdness so they don't run away in terror, you know? But then once they get to know me, it's too late. They can't run. And that's when I really unleash the beast. But yeah, ambivert seems very accurate. And honestly, my friends can testify. I feel like when people meet me for the first time, I seem a little bit reserved, definitely shy for sure. And maybe a little bit like, what's the word? Like a bit of a space cadet. And that's true, actually, no matter how well I know you. I can be very, like, what's the word? Something headed? Yeah. I don't want to say lightheaded, but it's something like that. And spacey at times, forgetful, scatterbrained. But sometimes when I'm passionate about something, then laser focused. Like when it comes to my art and stuff like that, when it comes to music and when it comes to you guys, of course. And so anyway, when it comes to upgrading like we are now, I'm still churning away in the back of my mind how to fully upgrade this situation. You know, I can change the color back there as well, because I don't want to have to buy another projector for here, because that seems like a not only wasteful but expensive and unnecessary thing to do. But I'm like, if I move the projector now, I don't think it'll work. I need to figure out some way to fit the anatomy of the room and the projector, the length of the cord and everything together to make the perfect background, the perfect streaming background, you know? Because I had to join the streaming guys and gals and non-binary pals that were showing off their cool backgrounds, and I'm just like, fuck. Like, people think when I'm streaming that I'm streaming from my closet, and that's kind of true. Like, I mean, this is basically, since my brother moved out, this is basically my my walk-in wardrobe. And so it's like, are you streaming from your closet? I'm like, yeah, kind of. That's kind of true. But, you know, I want to make it at least look a little bit professional, especially because the webcam often is very shit. But it's not really glitching out as much today. I don't know if that's because of the light or what. Look at that. Anyway, I do make some music. Yes, I do indeed. And if you guys would like to check it out in your own time, here's a link. I just posted today, but something very like short and cutesy because, you know, I've been trying to post every Thursday and I didn't want to forget. So there's a link to my YouTube channel, or one of the main one, I suppose, right now that I'm actually using to post some of my music to. And you're more than welcome to just look through it at your own leisure, my friend. By the way, if I haven't said this, or if you're new to this place, my name is Emmy, and I used to have a sign that said my name in the background of my old studio, you know, in case I ever forgot my own name, but now it's gone, and so I have to just remember to tell people that, because otherwise they'll be like, who are you, by the way? Who is this person? Hopefully, you know, your new favorite streamer. No, that's we'll see if we get there eventually, but I do late Australian streams, 8 p.m. till midnight usually, and smooth operator Cody, you've got my number. So this is an example of the kind of musical shenanigans that we get up to here, because I love smooth operator so much. Whenever I read that phrase, I get the impulse. It's almost like a twitch, no pun intended, to just sing that little line. No need to ask, he's a smooth operator. Smooth operator. And Cody certainly is. As for the follower alert, so you guys know how I've talked about my writing before and my music and stuff like that, and how I love them so much. And I feel like, at least with writing, maybe not so much with music, I feel like I've become relatively competent. Well, the exact opposite could be said about drawing. Well, I still love it, but I'm not at all competent. And what you just saw was meant to be a fox that a very kind viewer requested. I can't remember. I think it may have been Steve. And that was my best attempt, which looked more like Charizard, as you guys called him, high on DMT, which I crossed out and put high on life instead, because we're trying to be Twitch friendly here. But yeah, so welcome in. And today, if I feel productive enough, I might try to unpack my bag from the recent vacation that I just came back from, because it's still it's behind me on the floor and it's been just laying there and it's completely filled still. If not, we're just going to sit here and chat, and we're just going to enjoy one another's company, because like I said, I missed you guys. And I think I also decided on a solid schedule, which surprise, surprising no one. I think I'm going to stick to the evening schedule, at least for now, at least until the summer holidays have passed, or summer holidays for the Southern Hemisphere, I should say, because, all my friends are free, my family members are free, and I'm constantly doing things during the day. And if I tried to carve out time during the day, I feel like it'd be a lot more, flaky than if I just set a set schedule in the evening that I just always stuck to. And so 8 p.m. till late sounds reasonable. And it's like the exact same schedule that I had in my last studio. So that's kind of where we're going to be for a while. And Cody, I know that it's not the most ideal situation for you. I'll try and give as much, notice as possible. Like today, I think I gave about 45 minutes. And also, this doesn't mean that we're only going to be doing streams at this time. This might just be the main time for a little while. But like what I said with my friend coming to visit us, that might be during the day, and some other extra little things. If I'm just home and I'm on my computer doing stuff and I have the opportunity to stream during the day, then I'll do that, And so it's just the bare minimum will be at this time. The extras, the bonuses, the competitions, they could be literally at any time. And so I'm going to give you guys as much notice as possible for those too. But for now, because I feel like without a schedule, I will literally just start slipping. I'll be caught slipping and slacking and lacking. And I don't want to be caught doing any of those things. And so, yeah, we'll see how we go. Still thinking, I was like Monday to Friday or every second day. I'm still not sure. But as for the timing, that's what you can expect. I'm trying to go for every day, but without feeling like I've just fucking said everything that I need to say, because that's something that happens when you stream every single day, unless you're watching other people's videos. But what we do here is a whole lot of yapping, we do a lot of talking, not only about how we're doing and stuff, but about what's going on in our lives, about what's going on online. And there's only so much stuff that can happen in less than 24 hours, new stuff, to talk about. And so, not to mention having less time to do other things, projects, etc., etc. So I'm still thinking, because, I'm basically doing this full time now, or I purported that. How's that for a fancy word? And so I'm like, can you be full time and stream every second day? I don't know. But even if I did that, I wouldn't really be looking for another job because I don't really need to. Still, it's one of those weird things about being in online spaces and making a living that way. It's very strange and weird and feels like, how is this even real? I'm still working on it in the background. And so I really do appreciate you guys and your patience, because I don't think I would be this patient with myself. I'd be like, just fucking get a job, you bum type beat or something along those lines. And so it's just been a crazy, hectic period in general with my brother moving out, trying to set up this room, his old bedroom into a streaming studio. And of course, with my grandma and everything. And coming back from a vacation as well. So it's been bang, 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 one thing after another. And I'm just holy shit. Not to mention, and this is something that's happened throughout my whole life too. So it's not something that really does count. But the kind of ups and downs, the sine wave, as I've described it, of my health, when it starts to falter and when it starts to feel better, I'm in one of those, I think, I'm nearing one of those troughs right now, I think. And so I'm very eager to get back to, again, the title of this stream, to upgrading, because I feel like right now, in terms of my health and stuff like that, and I mean holistically, physical, mental, spiritual, even creatively, it's in a trough, or it's getting towards a trough. So I need to fucking figure that shit out. And, I'm hoping that this goes as a candid way to also invite you guys into that discussion. It's weird and uncomfortable sometimes to talk about. I tend to keep a lot of that stuff, especially, when it comes to myself and my family members, my health and all that, kind of private. But it's the kind of thing that I think is a valuable point of discussion. And if it helps someone, or if it's like insightful in any way, then I feel like that's worth talking about. And so, yeah, for me at least, it's something that I need to fucking constantly deal with. It's something I've always struggled with, but has only gotten worse, like with kind of COVID and everything, which I'm sure is quite common. Like people talk about long COVID and stuff. I'm not really that educated on that. But in terms of like feeling kind of constantly trying to keep up on this treadmill of like making sure your mental, physical, fucking sexual, creative health is all like, you know, is all schmicko, to use one of my dad's favorite words. It can be a lot. It can be almost like a full-time job. And I feel quite grateful that, you know, I have a lot of the spare time and I guess the resources to attend to those things. But a lot of people, you know, that have full-time jobs, that have like fucking kids that they need to look after, they don't actually have that time. And so I feel incredibly blessed and sometimes even a little bit guilty because, you know, how come I just get inordinately lucky to be able to, you know, dedicate my time and attention to these things just by virtue of, you know, where I've been born, or this incredible opportunity here where I get to kind of choose my hours and be very flexible like that. It hasn't always been the case. And I recognize how much privilege that really is, you know? Like when I was working at the bakery, the shoe store, or the fucking warehouse, I had to be there at a certain time. I had to stand up on my feet the whole day. I had to literally break and bend and bust my body to get the job done. And that led to some unfortunate, shall I say, consequences, like with my carpal tunnel that sometimes still flares up even now, multiple months after quitting my job rather abruptly. And yeah, just trying to kind of make sure that I don't fucking fall apart at any given moment. That's kind of how it feels sometimes. But yeah, you know, when I say all this stuff, I still remember that I'm fucking lucky. And so, yeah. As for how I quit, oh my God, I have a horrible track record of quitting jobs. It is quite a bit of a story. And I want to say now, I've tried to be as candid and upfront as possible about my own personal flaws. One of my flaws is quitting jobs. Like, oh my God, it's actually embarrassing because what I said was kind of a lie. And I really fucking hate lying. I'm not Kantian in the sense that I think lying is always immoral and always evil, but I try to not do it as much as possible because I'm horrible at it and I hate doing it. It makes me feel dirty and uncomfortable and honestly quite weak. Where it's like I couldn't just like nut up and just tell the truth. But I actually told my supervisor, my manager, the manager of the warehouse, I told her that I couldn't work anymore because I was having surgery on my wrists, which is not true, by the way. And because the thing is, like, I just felt so, I don't know, I felt like I was so indebted for some reason to this company that I'd only been working at for like a month so far. And they were so short-staffed that they really needed me there. And I felt like there'd be no real way to get out of it besides telling them, you know, a little bit of a lie. And I felt so bad, but I don't know. I just kind of, it slipped out in a sense because I could see her face as it was slowly souring as I was telling her, right? And I was like, I'm really sorry. I don't think I can work here anymore. Just like watching her face, how it like was starting to turn into like this kind of very, not angry, but you know what I mean? Like irritated expression that she was about to ask why. And I would have to get into this whole thing of like, oh, you don't like it here or whatever. Like, did someone say something? And I was like, I'm really sorry. I have to have surgery. Actually, yeah. I'm having surgery on my wrist because of my carpal tunnel that I actually developed here at this place. And so she was kind of like, oh, okay. And like, it kind of just smoothed over the whole thing. But that made me feel even more horrible because it's like, well, that's, you know, there are sometimes important conversations to be had, even if they are quite uncomfortable. But I just didn't have the courage. And so it was the kind of thing where I have never had to see her again or speak to her again, but I still fucking feel awful about it. And so the thing is, at the time, it wasn't entirely out of the realm of possibility because I was going to, what's it called? Well, I went to my GP to get my wrists kind of inspected. Then I went to a specialist to get like a nerve test done because my carpal tunnel was so bad that it was waking me up in the middle of the night. It felt like fire was racing up my arm, and it brought me to tears. In fact, it was so intense, right? And so it was not exactly booked in and not exactly something that I'd planned to do, but it was along the track. Like if you follow the logic through, surgery was the next option. Like if I didn't get some way of, you know, fixing what had happened. And so it was kind of like, I don't know, I just kind of said it. And I'd like to believe you guys are very like lenient, and I hope that it's true that, you know, I have learned from that experience, because it just makes me, sometimes it does keep me up at night. It makes me feel like so uncomfortable with that, like what I said, to the point where it's like, you know what? It would have been way better if I just fucking told the truth, you know? Oh yeah, and Cody, you're absolutely right. The carpal tunnel was so bad that I couldn't think, I couldn't do anything. Like I could barely pull up my pants, right? Let alone like spend time at the computer or like use my phone or, you know, just like do anything required when it comes to streaming and stuff. Like I was just, all I could think about and all that was in my world was pain, and it was horrible. And so, and this is just like, you know, the kind of onset of mild carpal tunnel, and it was thankfully reversed with lots of rest, some anti-inflammatories and like splints that I wore usually at night. And so the thing is, if it gets bad enough, it's permanent, and like you permanently kind of damage the kind of fat around the nerve to the point where it's constantly raw and exposed, and it's just like you're always in pain no matter what you're doing. Like for me, I only had pain when my wrists were flexed, and sometimes I still get that, especially at the gym. But if it gets bad enough, if it evolves for long enough, it will just hurt no matter what you're doing, no matter if your wrists are dead straight, because the nerve is raw and exposed. I can't even talk. That's how bad it was. And so, yeah, it was like, I guess in a sense, I was just like, I don't care what I have to do or say. And that's actually something that I want to put a pin in, because I want to talk more about my characters in a sec. Like Odin and Ada, actually, because for those of you just joining us, I'm also like a writer, and I write about these little characters that I like to torture a little bit. That idea philosophically and also kind of materially about what pain does to a person, like how it transforms a person. I kind of felt myself being transformed in that way. Like I did not feel like myself. And I think from the very limited amount of kind of research that I've done into this, when I say research, I mean just like talking with people, having conversations, especially with people like in my family. For example, my dad, he had to have surgery on his back because he had like a herniated or like a slip disc or whatever. And apparently that's one of the worst pains imaginable. It's like so painful you can't move. Like all you can do is really lie in agony on the couch or in bed, because, you know, your back, like your spine, is basically very integral to say the least. And so he had to have surgery, which was very dangerous actually. And he was telling me as well about what it feels like to be quite honestly disabled or debilitated by excruciating amounts of pain. And I don't think my level of pain was anywhere near that. And certainly, you know, I don't want to compare the two experiences. But it's interesting on a philosophical level almost about what pain can do to people. It can change them and like make them act differently, kind of really reduce someone. And I felt reduced in a sense to kind of my most base instincts. Because all you want to do is like fucking get away from it by any means necessary. And yeah, House is a fantastic example. I could see myself writing a whole fucking essay on like the philosophies in House, the show, and also the man himself, the man, the myth, legend, House MD. Because it's like it overrides all your other senses. All you need and all you want, without thinking about anything else, the morality or the ethics or anything, is like, how do I get this to stop? And like, honestly, if it got worse and worse, like I could see myself getting worse and worse, you know, ethically and morally. That's not to say that it's okay, there's a reason why ethics and morals exist, even, despite material conditions. But I think a lot of the times those material conditions can fit in very snugly, like another puzzle piece to the story as to why people behave in certain ways, what makes them make decisions fundamentally. And so House is, he's a fantastic example of that exact thing. He's got that added kind of complexity of his addiction as well. But in a way, just like pain relief in itself is such a complicated process, and I can see why it drives some people kind of insane, and why people get addicted, and why people kind of end up having their lives uprooted, because it's uprooting in general. And so I don't know, I feel like I wasn't thinking clearly at the time. That doesn't mean it's okay, and that doesn't mean it's excusable. I feel bad about it still, because I could have just told the truth. I could have just said, I don't want to work here anymore. My wrists are hurting a lot, and I feel like it's because of this job, I know it's because of this job. And I just, I have better opportunities, like not really getting into the whole streaming thing. But instead I took the easy way out, and that's not something I'm proud of. And it's like, out of, my many flaws, don't get me wrong, that's something that I really want to work on the most, because I really enjoy this idea of radical honesty, which is different from brutal honesty. A lot of the times I think people who say they're brutally honest they relish more in the brutality than the honesty. But radical honesty is like being as upfront with people and as yourself as possible, even despite the anxieties of how they might see you differently, or if they might not like you anymore. Like in the pursuit of being as fully actualized as possible. And so I could have just said the truth, and so I don't know why I didn't. I just feel bad about it now. Ultimately though, if it's any consolation to my own self, I never have to see any of those people again, and I'm hoping to take that experience and kind of make it right in the future, like not go down that path again in the future. Though, like, saying it now, it's like, well, I'm pain-free at this point, and I can't really place myself in that same mindset as I was. It's hard to remember, because that's the other weird thing about pain. It's like, it feels horrendous and like you're gonna die, right? But as soon as it's gone, it's really hard to re-access that state, that kind of high stakes live or die scenario. It just feels a bit foggy, like a movie. It's hard to fully jump back into that fully empathetically feeling state. And so, I don't know, it's interesting. And I'm not going to say definitively that I could never go back there, as in that I could never go back to taking the easy way out again and just lying to smooth things over. But I'd hope that having learnt from that, I could be a bit more courageous, in the future. And it's weird, because I feel like in every other aspect of my life, I try, I don't know about succeeding, to various levels of success. I try and live that as much as possible. I have lots of those uncomfortable conversations with my friends, less so with my family, I suppose. But specifically the people I choose to spend time with. Like, they kind of know me very intimately, and that's by design, because, I want to be liked for the right reasons, for being actually myself, as opposed to someone that I'm pretending or trying to be. And so it's like, it's one of those things where it's weird to be able to see yourself doing, I guess, the right thing in one arena and less so in another. It's like, fuck, can't I just transfer those skills over? But I think I tend to be a little bit less sure of myself when it comes to figures of authority, when it comes to bosses, even sometimes teachers, even though a lot of the times they're like very soft and welcoming. The doctors and stuff, I've found it very incredibly difficult to stand up to myself sometimes with doctors, because, it's a whole thing. I won't get into it. But it's like when sometimes people just want to see you out the door, and it's very hard to actually advocate for your own kind of well-being, It's easy to just be like, okay, cool. You say nothing's wrong? All right, great. I guess I'll just leave. Even though you know that something's wrong. You know what I mean? It's sometimes hard to actually put your foot down. So it's something that, I don't know, I don't feel like I've fully got the most, what's the word? Like, I don't fully have that down. At least not yet. Maybe one day. But yeah, those are the arenas that I really suck at. Like, people in positions of power that usually don't really look like or act like they give a single fuck, you know? It's like, well, why should I bother? Why should I give a fuck if you don't give a fuck? And that's definitely the wrong way to go about it. Because when it comes to your own advocacy, you should absolutely give a fuck no matter what. But sometimes it's really hard, especially because as a personality, I think, especially if you're just getting to know me, I'm an easily overpowerable personality, you know? It doesn't seem that way on stream because a streaming environment is very different to being in real life. In a stream, I'm basically doing a 4-hour-long monologue and hoping that people find it at least somewhat interesting, you know? In person, there are all these different dynamics of like a conversation, like, you know, with 2 people, 3, 4, however many you want. And it's very easy for me to just end up listening without really saying much because it's hard for me to find a place to actually interject, you know, like to speak my thoughts without getting spoken over or not even being heard, because I can be very quiet as well. Like I was saying in the last stream at Parks, I was compared to like a little mouse, which I tried to take as a compliment, but I could see where they were coming from. I think I can be kind of non-confrontational sometimes, or at the very least, like wanting to see the good in people, the potential in people. And so sometimes that appears potentially naive or idealistic to others. And I kind of resent that notion that I'm naive, because I think, I don't know, I just think that's a very surface level view of, I guess, optimism in general. So, but yeah. Anyway, that's a whole thing. Let's have a drink of water together. How are you guys doing? Are you guys doing well? How do you feel about the new setup? How do you feel about the new kind of look besides the fucking not so new uniform, the streaming uniform? And yeah, I totally agree, Cody. We're all different people around each person we come across, like that idea of code switching. You speak in a different way to your grandma than you would to your best friend, than you would to your lover, than you would to your boss. It's like, you know, there's just different modes of communication that work for different scenarios. But I do agree that we have, or at least I think, I'd like to believe that we have this kind of core self, not to say that it's unchanging, but like a sense of self that can be kind of kept as a through line that can be nurtured and developed and matured in a way. So that no matter who you're talking to, you can still feel like you're standing on solid ground, as opposed to quicksand, and like your personality just kind of dissolves and reshapes into whoever you're talking to, because that's agreeable and people like when, you know, conversations are smooth and non-confrontational. But I think it's important to kind of rebel against that sometimes, and I'm still working on that. So, yeah. Just because I'm optimistic doesn't mean I don't have my own opinions about things. Whether or not they're kept to my own self or voiced out loud is kind of, you know, it's besides the point. It's important to know when and where to actually speak your mind, as opposed to keeping things more personal. I know I've used this example before, but like when it comes to politics, obviously I have my own politics. I'd like to believe that I'm at least somewhat politically educated, you know, and politically aware. But this stream, for example, and this channel is not at any time soon, I should say, going to turn into like a politics stream. You know what I mean? It's too incisive, as in it kicks up too much argument and too much chaos. And I don't feel well versed or well trained enough to handle that chaos without it getting wildly out of control. The same thing, or the same sentiment could be said for a few other different topics, you know what I mean? But just because I don't talk about them on stream doesn't mean I don't have opinions on them, or I don't think about them, or even practice some of them. Like, you know, sometimes I put my politics into practice, sometimes I put my philosophies into practice, and like a lot of that, 99% of that happens off stream. But, you know, I guess that's hard for people to conceptualize, which I totally understand. I think to make this more broadly applicable to people that aren't streamers. That can be said for just general life and living. You don't need to tell everyone, even if they're asking or demanding or like fucking coercing, pleading and begging for you to tell them something. You are allowed to have things that you keep personal and private to your own self. And when I say this, just remove streaming entirely out of the equation, right? If you have a best friend or a parent or, even a lover who is trying to get or solicit information out of you, you don't owe those parts of yourself, those pieces of yourself to anyone. It's really like a gift that you can bestow upon people because hopefully they've earned it. You know what I mean? And if you want to get strategic, I suppose, about it, which is a little bit cynical, information really is a form of power. And if you want to maintain or keep or even elevate your power, even just like a personal sense of power, like empowerment, I mean, it's very valid to be able to say, no, that is private. I'm sorry. I don't really want to share that, but how about we talk about this instead? And so that goes for literally anyone. I think maybe online figures or, the higher up you go, the higher levels of celebrity that you go, the more important it is. But literally anyone is could benefit from that idea of keeping things, hopefully without being too withholding, personal or private, or sharing it selectively depending on who you feel is a good fit to hear that stuff, and so because Cody is absolutely right. Sometimes sharing your true feelings, it doesn't help change things for the good or help a situation. It just makes it more like drama filled, or it can even destroy. And so it's like it's up to you to wield your words in a sense wisely. Because, we talk about language here a lot. We talk about what words can do. There's a reason we do our affirmations and why they're so important here. It's because, words are as powerful as weapons, And they say, I know this is kind of cliche, they say the pen is mightier than the sword. You can, take that as you will. I think it's very contextual. But still, the idea of, there being kind of a little bit of a magic or a powerfulness in words is very true, at least to me. And it doesn't matter what fields we're talking about, whether it's professional, familial, romantic, you can always increase your level of aura, let's say, by kind of putting some more intentional effort, energy, or whatever you want to call it, into your kind of, I don't know, not your vocabulary, but your way of speaking, your manner of articulation, if you want to get fancy with it. And so, it's that kind of thing where, for me now, it's completely, what's the word? Ironically enough, not being able to find the word. It's not subconscious, but it's not something that I do purposefully, the way that I speak. Sometimes people say, oh, you sound fancy, or you sound very articulate. And that's a nice thing to hear. It's always an appreciated compliment. But it's not like I'm purposely trying to choose the fanciest words to say out loud. It's I'm trying to find the exact most accurate word to say out loud. Sometimes that is just oh, how are you feeling? I'm good. That will do the trick. But sometimes someone asks, oh, how are you feeling? And the most accurate word is, I'm feeling quite loquacious today. And that is what I'm aiming for. I'm not aiming for fanciness. I'm aiming for accuracy. Because to me, that's another form of truth, quite obviously, to be able to use language to kind of inch closer and closer to either hidden or not so hidden truth is really fucking cool. Because it's you can do a little bit of excavating in that way, almost like an archaeologist. You can mine down into yourself and see feelings that could be buried, things that are half buried and just need a little bit of coaxing out. Or really just kind of investigative work to see what's going on. And all it takes is a little bit of invocation to say the thing out loud, or to allow the thing to be said out loud. And I think that's kind of cool and something that you can do without fucking buying anything, without going to university. I went to university for 4 years to fucking get a nice little piece of paper to put on my walls, right? But you don't need to go to university. You don't need to like buy this fancy course. You don't need to buy any equipment. You don't need any gear. Well, I mean, you could buy a dictionary if you wanted to learn more words, but like you can just fucking Google like a dictionary. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's one of the cool things. I feel like it's almost an equalizing practice, like to kind of become more learned, I suppose, in terms of your speaking. You can do it anywhere with anything, and it's very inexpensive, right? And I think that's kind of interesting, and it's comforting to me, you know, because like I believe holistically and philosophically in that idea of making art as kind of open source and freely available as possible when possible. And sometimes certain practices, certain artistic practices are kind of, they're prohibitive by way of their expensive gear, and the kind of the barrier to entry is high because you need fucking tons of equipment, tons of like extra cash to splurge on like all this stuff. You know, no matter what hobby it is, someone has found a way to fucking like, you know, to monetize it. And so it's like, it's a kind of thing where with writing, or I guess more specifically with language, to make it more broad, you don't need anything except the ability to say, write, or think about words, and the desire to learn more, you know? That makes me happy. Like, you don't need to buy a $5,000 camera. You don't need to buy a fucking, you know, a very specific niche item that will make you suddenly good. It's like, all you need is practice. Good practice, you know. There's a saying here that I got from my old guitar teacher. Practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. And so you got to be practicing in the right way. But, you know, all it takes is the desire and then the doing of that thing. And I feel like there are not many other practices which allow for that, to be quite frank. And so, yeah, I don't know. There's a reason why language and, you know, kind of writing, I guess, in particular is very special to me. I have so much respect and love for all the other disciplines out there. Ones that I have dabbled in and kind of been relatively unsuccessful. You guys have seen my doodle bobs. But still, it's like there's a very soft, special spot in my heart for writing. And I guess that's one of the reasons why, you know? It's so fucking, there's a word for it. It's just so welcoming. Anyone can do it. And anyone can get better at it, which makes me feel happy. Because, you know, sometimes it can be a little bit demoralizing when you start trying out a new hobby or like a new practice and you're like, wow, I fucking suck. Like, I sometimes feel that way about making music and even drawing, you know? I'm like, wow, this sucks. I suck. This is horrible. Why am I doing this? But the thing is, the people that are good at that stuff spend time and effort getting better. And so, like for me, I have to remember back to when I was like, you know, a little bit younger, when I first started writing. I started writing like basically as soon as I could fucking talk, you know, as soon as I could hold a pencil. And that's like just by virtue of having that, those years of experience under my belt, that's kind of automatically given me maybe, I don't know, an extra leg up. But anyone can get there. Sometimes it just takes an extra bit of time or patience and, you know, a lot of being shitty for a while, as in being terrible at the discipline. But yeah, it's one of those things where if you end up discovering, oh, this isn't for me, at least there's not, you know, it's not like, oh, fuck, now I have all this gear, like tens of thousands of dollars of equipment. I think, you know, at the minimum, it's like at least you only wasted, and I don't even like to use that word, but at least you only wasted your time as opposed to your money and et cetera, et cetera. So, and hard solipsism, you're absolutely right. You're praised in public for what you spend years practicing in private. It's absolutely true. And that's why a lot of the times people kind of, they undermine the value of certain like artists because they're like, why is this painting like fucking $1,000? It like, I could do that, especially when it comes to modern art. But it's like, well, one, you didn't, and two, you didn't go to school or like you didn't practice for like years and years just to end up here selling your stuff. It's like you're buying the years of experience and the years of practice. And so, yeah. As for what I would consider my definition of art, it's hard. It's so nebulous, and because my use of language is more descriptive than prescriptive, I often use words from the dictionary that aren't at all how they're supposed to be used. It's half by design and half just fucking the weirdness of my brain. As for art, I feel like it's some kind of a piece of media, potentially, that invokes a kind of emotional response in the viewer. You know, I'm trying to be as broad as possible. And so, you know, like if it's even bad responses kind of count in a way. Yeah, so if it moves you, makes you feel something, even if it makes you feel disgust, you know? Like if it makes you feel like, oh, what the fuck? Why would you make that? Even if it's like a terrible song or a kind of gross or scary piece of artwork, if it's a bad story or whatever, there's something about like making someone feel different from their current potentially neutral state that kind of points me in the direction that, oh, this is art. And so that's why even modern art gets a pass. And like the stuff that like most people say, oh, that's just fucking, you know, that's just bullshit, like kind of, what's the word? Kind of pretend art, where everyone's just pretending that this like white canvas is actually deep art. I don't know about deep, but I think art is a very broad term. And I think, and this is something we talked about a long, long time ago, that you can even expand, kind of like a rubber band, the definition of art to the point where I could justifiably, I think, agree with the notion that you can live life artfully. And to me, what that means is like living in such a way that you kind of turn the events of your life, even brushing your teeth or picking your nose, into artful events. And what that means is hard to describe, but it's like doing things with intention, and whatever philosophical mode that you personally subscribe to. For me, I'm kind of like utilitarian hedonist, and what that means for me is, of course, my axioms: maximizing pleasure while also minimizing suffering. And so if you can live life that way, I would consider that to be living life artfully. Even though it can seem mundane, you know, like you can drink water artfully. I don't know if I know how to do that or even how to explain it, but I know that it's true. It's kind of just like a proof of concept at this point. And so it's like a constant practice that can be refined. And it can be quite exhausting. So I don't expect anyone, and I don't expect myself, to be doing that all the time. But I think it's possible, and I think it's a fun thing to try, even just occasionally, if that makes sense. And so, holy fuck, we've already been talking for an hour. It's crazy, right? I don't know. I love art so much, and I love thinking about it, and I love kind of, you know, just digging into its intricacies and complexities. But I'm not the authority. I'm not even any authority. These are more just like random nebulous thoughts plucked from my brain and just kind of like, you know, presented to you guys for just ponderings purposes. Like I went to university, but that doesn't really, I don't know. It's like that doesn't really seem to lend me any credibility. At least I don't think so. Because some of the most incredible artists that I've ever met have been people with no real formal training or no real understanding of why they're doing what they're doing, but it's something kind of innate in a sense. It's like they're going based on something that they can't articulate. And I'm like, wow, that's incredible. You see it a lot with people that are first-time poets. We do this thing here for some of our new friends, a poetry competition once a month where we have a theme and then you guys just submit if you feel so inclined, which we then read all together and pick one winner to get like a little prize that I send off. A lot of the times people that say, oh, I'm not really a writer, I've never really written before, this kind of seems a little bit silly, or at least it feels silly, you know? I usually try to encourage those people, like, just to see what happens. You know, you might surprise yourself. And some of the pieces of art that I've read have been just absolutely gobsmacking. I know that's like, I don't know, it seems cliche, but it's so true. There's sometimes a really fresh, inviting, kind of real perspective that's offered up by those people that haven't kind of been like molded into a very set formula by the kind of education system. They just have this incredible aliveness, and I guess freshness is the only word that comes to mind. And it's just so breathtaking, you know? And I feel like whether it's beginner's luck, if you want to be more cynical about it, or if it's something else, like the unearthing of something, then either way, I think it's cool. And I think it can only be beneficial for people to explore that side of themselves, you know, to do the whole what if experiment and just like play the part of a poet for an evening or so and see what kind of bubbles up. It's like, it's been the case more often than not. The people that try it end up being delighted. At least I'd like to believe. And so it's the kind of thing where, yeah, there are people like even Cody, like making your incredible artworks with no formal training. It's just this intuitive kind of expression of oneself, and I think that's beautiful. And again, it's like that's a reason why one of the initiatives that I have, at least, is to make my own art as freely accessible as possible. Even though, because I'll show you guys, right? If we go over here, I have my website and I have my merch store. And by the way, we'll talk more about that in a bit when I do my Streamly/daily plug. We have stuff here that you can buy, right? When it comes to especially the posters, you can buy them for real money, you know, and get something in your mailbox to put on your walls. But, you know, if people don't want to do that, if they feel like, I just don't have the money right now, or it's not an essential thing, but they still enjoy the art, I mean, it's right here. There's literally nothing stopping someone from fucking just pressing print and doing the exact same thing. But I'd like to believe that, you know, that's the kind of what's the word? That risk? That's not the word. There's a kind of loss that I'm willing to take in terms of merch funds, because I value the art more. And I feel like it's a kind of thing that I've experienced in the past where I haven't had the money for something yet, but I've still enjoyed the work, whether it's a game, a piece of music, or whatever. So I come back to it years later to actually, you know, show my support now that I have the ability to. And so I'm hoping that comes through here with the fact that all my poetry is just available for free, or at least the good ones. I'm still trying to add to it, you know? And so it's the kind of thing where my first goal is to make and share. And then my kind of second or even tertiary goal is to see if I can make a living from it, which is why the Poetic Shop is just an option. And all the stuff that's on the Poetic Shop is also available here. So if people are, you know, tech savvy enough or even like handyman savvy enough, you can just fucking download this image, print it out and stick it on your own wall. But if you want to support the channel, and if you believe in the same things that I believe in, then you can get your own little piece of art that's been, you know, kind of made painstakingly and with lots of love by myself and my mom and my auntie, and have it like, you know, specially laminated and like a little note attached to it. And so it's kind of like a way to show support while also getting hopefully something kind of cool. So, you know, it's like, it's just one of those things. And I'm hoping that's a nice way to play this game as cleanly as possible, because there are ways to play this game very dirty, you know? There are ways to pressure and coerce and kind of, you know, almost like blackmail your audience to make them kind of you know, spend all their hard-earned money on pieces of merch that, you know, may not be as thoughtfully created. But that's, I don't know, it feels very degrading. And Zach, you're absolutely right. Art made for money specifically kind of devalues itself. It's like, it just seems like it would be hard to sleep at night to kind of go down that path. And so that's why I've said this before, but my option, or my purpose is to give people the option, to let people know that it exists and all the alternatives, and then just kind of let it rest. Because I don't need to, like, if someone wants to do something, if someone has the desire to do something, like, they will do that. You know, like, for example, Weasel donating. I wasn't even streaming. Like, I wasn't even live. And Weasel was very kind, was kind enough to donate towards this kind of, you know, this goal here. And it's like, that's his own prerogative in the way that, you know, my talking or whatever can't really sway someone. Like, I can't force someone to donate or not donate, or to buy merch or not buy merch. All my real job is to give people the option, to let them know that it's a thing, that it exists, and kind of let it be. And so, I don't know. That's my own personal approach. People do it differently. I've heard both online and offline people's kind of opinions about that, which some of them have been surprising and not in a good way. But it seems like very like a hard line in the sand, that I wanted to make sure that I could play the game cleanly, essentially. And yeah, you're also right to say that it's very hard when you live in a place that, you know, kind of demands that we fucking pay rent and we put food on the table with money. And so it's like, yeah, it's one of those things where when your livelihood is sometimes tied to selling your art or whatever it may be, it gets real dicey, and it can be like it's no surprise that a lot of people end up getting burnt out, or like their mental health suffers, because it's like, you know, it just feels like, I don't know, how could it not be? How could it not be draining to have to put your, I don't know, to have to live by that kind of schedule? So there's always, yeah, hopefully always room for graciousness on both ends of the scale, whether you're selling or versus whether you're buying. But at the same time, to do your due diligence as well, and make sure, again, on both sides, that one, you're not selling people dog shit, and two, that you're not falling for a scam as well, which has happened countless times on the internet. I've been scammed before as well. Like, I don't do this anymore, but I will admit in the past, like, I've shopped from places like, Temu wasn't around, but, you know, like Wish and stuff. And kind of suffered from that, you know what I mean? Like getting something in the mail that is not at all what you ordered, but it's like, what can you expect? You tried to buy a fucking 20 carat ring from wish.com. And so it's like, you know, it's one of those things where the internet is the Wild West. That's what I've always said. And really it's your job to kind of be alert, be aware, you know? Even though it sucks that you kind of have to be a little bit, not cynical, but like, yeah, kind of switched on enough to make sure that you can protect yourself, because, you know, it's just like people are out there and they will scam you. They will tell you lies or half-truths. They will obfuscate the true nature of their intentions or their practices. And it's happened probably like 1 million times, you know, on small scales or on big, gigantic scales. And it's like, yeah, I don't know what to really say about that, but it's just a thing to pay attention to. And so I wanted to do it as cleanly as possible, which is why I even say, like, oh, this is what we make at home and this is what we kind of outsource. We tried to keep the outsourcing to an absolute minimum, but we do have like the ceramic mug that we don't know how to make here. And so we're like, oh, well, we'll just have faith in kind of like a second supplier in a sense, and just see how it goes. If it goes terribly, to just like make it right and then like change track in a way. And so, yeah. And yeah, it's true, like the fact that the cost of living right now is so dire, it means that people have less time to actually focus on nourishing not only their health, that's like, it's crazy to even say that, but like their hobbies. Like, you know, if people want to learn how to knit, sing, write, or dance, it's like, well, you have to decide, like, what are you willing to spend the very little free time you have doing? And for most people, it's like just staying alive, eating, sleeping, showering, etc., spending time with friends and not going insane. But people that work 1, 2, sometimes even 3 jobs, they have fucking no time to spend on their hobbies. And so it makes me wonder sometimes, like, how many incredible artists have we actually just missed out on? It's like, how many there's this quote about how many Einsteins we've lost because they were out in the fields, right? And it's like, it's true. You know, our material conditions can be stifling, or if you're lucky, they can be enriching and kind of expanding. For me, I think sometimes it wavers, but more or less it's like it's very favorable, and that is something I'm eternally grateful for. My parents were, because they're both retired now, but they were working class, and they worked their fucking asses off. Like, when I say that, I mean my dad literally worked so hard that he had a heart attack and had to change the way he thought about kind of, you know, employment, and kind of just using his body as almost like another instrument or cog, literally, in the machine. And so they've got to retire kind of early. My dad, not so much, but my mum, she's 50 something, 55. And so that's kind of like, yeah, earlier than usual for people in Australia. And so it's like, I don't know, it just feels like I feel very blessed, but at the same time, don't worry, I understand what it means to like have a working class family, to work for myself, and also to like understand what it means to have privilege as well. Rich people use money to save their body. Poor people use their body to make money. It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. And there's so much to be said about that. And so just, I want you guys to know as well that I'm not the most learned about this topic. And when I speak, I'm only going based on my own experience and like what I've been told from others. But I know what it's like. I know what it's like to come home absolutely fucking exhausted. And just like look at your bank account and be like, oh, that's what it's all for? Fuck, that's a grim, you know? And still, like me being one of the kind of privileged ones, you know? And so, yeah, in the sense that I have a really strong support system, which I've said before. Like my parents and my friends and everything, like if I got in trouble somehow, or if I couldn't pay rent, like I would have people that could back me up. And so it's like that in itself is worth all the money in the world, you know? There's something to be said about having a second, third, fourth chance. And a lot of people that are kind of trying to make it out there in the world don't have that. They don't have a backup plan, or they don't have like, you know, that kind of safety net to catch them if they absolutely crash and burn. And so that's why a lot of people don't even attempt to go into the creative arts, because they don't have that security in a sense, you know? And so I'm sure there are plenty of incredible to be actors or singers or whatever that just ended up burning out in construction or in offices or whatever, because they fucking needed food and a shelter. So it's crazy, you know? It's just like, yeah, it's one of those things. And I feel very lucky, you know, to be able to do this. If it doesn't work out, I can just go and work at a bakery somewhere and yeah. Just kind of get back to life as it was before. But I hope to not have to do that, because I love you guys too much, and this is so holistically good for my mental health and, you know, my physical health. I've been thinking about that a lot recently, because I want to look as good as possible for you guys. When I say good, I don't mean like a fucking supermodel on a magazine cover, but like to be presentable enough that the message of what I'm saying hopefully gets through, and I can practice in a sense what I preach as well. And so, because, you know, it's like sometimes the message needs to be delivered in a certain way, and people are more likely to listen if you look a certain way, whatever that means, whether it's more polished or less, or whether it's like, you know, just like more relatable than if I was like fucking, I don't know, in a 600 square feet mansion. Is that big? I don't know. Talking about my fucking true blue working class background. And so, yeah, it's like just, it's one of those things. So streaming helps me in all aspects, in all arenas. And so, yeah, it's like one of those things where I feel very glad. And like I've said, like I've shared with you guys in the past, my streaming income and stuff, like one of the months, I mean, it varies all the time, but in the previous month, like I made $70 from streaming, and it's like, well, it's just so enriching in every other way that it's like, that's kind of just a bonus in a sense. And I have not thought about running for office, though that is a very funny thing to say. It's just like, I don't know, these thoughts that sometimes pop into my head. And it's weird because sometimes these thoughts, and I don't know if you guys have a similar way of thinking, they seem obvious, but then you say them out loud and sometimes people are like, oh, I never thought about it that way. And so it makes me realize saying them out loud is sometimes very helpful, even if it seems kind of commonplace to yourself. And so, yeah, I'm not publicly politically inclined because I don't think my skin is thick enough for that, to be quite frank. I really don't. Though it's nice to be considered a good leader. That is a very nice thing to say. I've strayed away from that in the past because I used to be called too bossy, and I can potentially see why. It's not that I'm trying to be bossy, it's just that I feel like I have a certain vision sometimes, and I want to see it fully realized. But yeah, it's hard to say. I just pulled the plug out of my fan with my foot. Anyway, what did I just do? There we go. It's just one of those things, like to be vocal without being too forceful, to be open-minded enough but also resolute enough about how you feel. Yeah, I got called bossy as a kid and like got kind of bullied for a little bit. And I think for a while in my teenagerdom, I kind of swayed, like I overcorrected in the other direction and became a little bit too much of a, what's the word, like, I don't know, too agreeable in a sense, like too people pleasery, you know? And not so much speaking how I actually feel. And even now, it's that constant battle between how forceful can you be about something versus how willing to let go of control are you willing to be as well. Bosses demand, a leader shows. That's a beautiful way to put it. Yeah, because like, you know, I think as a kid, I didn't have enough of the grace or the tact that you kind of learn later in life, how to like, to show something without being too demanding, you know? Because I just had the vision and I knew I wanted to execute it. But sometimes you have to do it with finesse, you know what I mean? Like you have to kind of be graceful enough to allow the vision to come together without kind of forcing or jamming the parts too soon. And that's something that I don't expect any kid to know how to do, or, you know, even sometimes any adult. It's something that takes time, and I don't think I practiced it purposefully, but maybe in learning how not to be called bossy, it was something that I like kind of inadvertently learned how to do things almost under the radar, you know, like people don't realize what you're doing until it's done, and they feel like you haven't been too forceful or pushy. And so it's like, yeah, it's one of those things that sometimes is more abstract than material. In terms of visions, well, streaming is a vision, you know. We talked about getting this setup done. It's still a work in progress, but I'm thinking about when I was a kid. Like, let's say we were trying to put on a play. We did that sometimes when we were younger, like for the adults and stuff. Just being like, oh, I want you to stand here, or like, I think we should say it like this, and people being like, okay, can you just cool it? You're kind of controlling the whole thing here. And then trying to be like, oh, okay, that is true, you know, to like take the criticism without being too fucking offended. Again, like that's hard for a kid to know how to do. Or like as I got a little bit older, like group projects and stuff like that, or standing up to friends if they're overstepping your boundaries. I'm thankful that with my friends that I have now, the friends that I've known for 10 plus years and who I love to death, that's not something that's really ever happened. I haven't had them overstep boundaries, and I'm hoping and, you know, generally confident that I've never done the same to them. But in high school, you're not only just surrounded by your friends, you're surrounded by all kinds of people, including people that might not like you for whatever reason. I was bullied in high school a little bit. I think because I was generally well liked, that means sometimes people don't like that fact, you know what I mean? And being friends with various people means that other people can sometimes get jealous. Though I know that's a criticism that everyone says, where they're always just like, oh, you're just jealous. But I feel like in this case, it was actually just legitimately that, because, you know, kind of being chummy with people, especially people that, you know, are highly sought after or desirable, it's like, oh, it's just a whole thing. I don't want to even get into it because it makes me sound so absolutely like fucking, what's the word? So up myself. But like, for example, I'm going to be so candid right now. See, earlier we're talking about radical honesty. This is a period of radical honesty, no matter how it makes me seem. Like, I was friends with a lot of guys, right? And it wasn't even because of the way I looked, the way I spoke, or the way I did anything. I just feel like I am just a friendly person, you know? But because of that, the girls that had crushes on those guys absolutely hated me, you know? And I wasn't even trying to do anything. Like, I wasn't trying to get a boyfriend. I wasn't trying to steal their mans. But maybe to them, it just came across that way because I was like open-minded and friendly. And they were kind of just like mad about that, you know? And so there were times where I think to them, it seemed like I was encroaching upon their territory, even though I had no idea. And I was just having a nice time, you know? It's like true Sigma moves. And I know that sounds so petty. You know, it sounds so petty, and it is petty. It's like high school drama. But that's just like an example of like, you know, how sometimes being kind of nice and playful, like playful is I think the key word, can sometimes come across differently to other people. They think maybe you're being flirtatious, and I'll be true as well. I can sometimes be a bit flirtatious, which you guys know. It's just that sense of like, oh, well, sometimes people might not respond that well to that, and to be graceful enough to know when to pull it back a little bit. And so, yeah, high school drama, it's so petty, right? It's just so silly. But it's like, yeah, it's a good example. And like sometimes having that get in the way of things that just really aren't, like, why? You know, wanting to be friends with someone and then, yeah, having that start drama. It's like, we really should be focusing on the bigger picture right now. You know what I mean? And I've said before, and don't get me wrong, even when I am being actually genuinely flirtatious, it's like, I feel like that's also within my right to do so, in a sense. It's not like I'm kind of staking claim to the point where no one else can be flirtatious to someone or whatever. It's like, hey, I'm just doing me. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's one of those weird things where it wasn't even about the way that I looked as well, because I looked very different in high school as I do now. I think objectively I look better now. You guys can judge for yourselves if you go to the server and check out Kichi's Corner. And so it's like, I don't know. I just felt like it didn't matter how I looked, and I still believe this, but there's something about being playful and open-minded, and especially if you're kind of willing to seem sometimes a little bit silly in being so hot on your sleeve, people will respond to that, you know? And it's weird because when I used to write in high school, because I wrote poetry in high school, you know, and I used to share it with people, even the people that I would expect to make fun of that, or like, you know, like the jocks, the stereotypical jock, if you want to put it into like American terms. Sometimes I would write just little poems for them because I felt inspired. And I was like, well, you kind of said something that made me want to write this, so here you go. And I was kind of expecting a bit of mockery, to be quite frank. But instead, like 99% of the time, it was received really well, because I think people kind of appreciate that earnestness, you know, even if it's not from the person that you would expect. Like there was this jock, the poem is actually on the website, I can probably share it with you guys, that he said something offhandedly that was like a really nice, interesting phrase, right? And I was like, huh, that made me want to write. So I wrote the poem, and I was like debating whether or not I should send it to him. So like, we don't really speak, right? We're in different circles, and he's like a full-on jock, and I'm just like, I don't even know what I was, you know, fucking school captain, so I don't know what that makes me. And so like, I eventually just did the risky text, you know what I mean? I was like, fuck it, just send it. And his response was like a really heartfelt and earnest, like sincere thanks. Like, this is really special to me. Thank you so much. And it was like that little spark of connection that I think would not have happened otherwise. And we haven't spoken since. We haven't spoken before, and we haven't spoken since, but it was just like that little something, you know, that little blip in time that was a nice moment and was kind of just, it was worth the potential embarrassment, right? I'll see like in a lull if I can find that poem, because I know it's on my website. But yeah, it was like that ability to kind of be open, even at the expense of seeming cool, whatever that is, I think was a quality that was helpful in high school, even if I looked different. Because, like, for example, you guys know I've been quite open about the different things that I've done, either to, for, or with my appearance, as in, like, my hair was not as long. I actually had a pixie cut in year 9, which was, like, fucking crazy. This is my hair that's grown out since. It's my real hair. I don't know how to, like, prove it besides just trying to yank it off my head. But, like, since then, like, I've had nose job, I've had lip filler, I've even had Botox, which is why when I raise my eyebrows, I don't think I'll get it again because I like being more expressive with my eyebrows. But since then, I'd like to believe that I've improved my appearance, but my ability to make friends and, like, pull, so to speak, has not changed. It hasn't even really, it hasn't improved, or it hasn't disimproved, because it was never really about that in the first place. Though I think, okay, being conventionally attractive, if I am that, I'm not sure, can be helpful. It's like, you know, it's just another facet that will make someone interested in you. I think a lot of the times someone's good looks can be the least interesting thing about them. And it's really about their personality, the way, their manner of articulation, the way that they see the world and move through the world that is really interesting. And for me, at least, someone's sense of humor is what really attracts me to someone. Because really, it's like, there are a million hot people out there. So what's going to be the difference? Like, you need to find some way to distinguish between just randomly, conventionally hot people. And for me, it's usually like a sense of humor, or like a willingness to be open-minded, and sometimes cynical, but not always. Like, maybe like 90% not, and then 10% cynical, you know? Because for me, I think it's draining when I'm hanging out with someone and they're always combative and they're always like trying to see how something can go wrong or how something can turn out poorly. It's just like, bruh, just enjoy life, you know? Which I know can probably seem very annoyingly blasé from the other person's point of view. But for me, it's like, I try to focus, again, trying to be optimistic without being naive. And so, yeah, it's like, it's one of those things. And so, anyway, I hope that makes sense. And who knows, I don't plan on doing much else to my appearance in the future, unless you want to count getting more generally physically fit in the sense of working on my fitness. That also kind of goes up and down. Right now, I think I'm in my couch potato phase, like I've been talking to you guys about. But I'm hoping to change that because, you know, it's like, why the hell not? I feel like it's well within my reach. But yeah, like in terms of my face, my hair, and everything like that, I'm pretty content. Even if, like, sometimes I look in the mirror and I think, what a potato, like literally what a potato. It's just like kind of, especially if I spend too much time online. And it's weird because I can look exactly the same way but feel differently about myself depending on what's happened. Like if I've been online too much, or if I've been spending time with friends, or if I got a really nice compliment, which kind of proves to me that it's not at all about how I actually look, and like 100% about how I'm feeling and kind of like what's going on internally, whether it's like hormonally or whatever else, you know. If I've slept enough, if I've drank enough water, and yeah, it's comforting, I think. But it can feel so real, even if it's not. It can feel like, wow, I am literally the ugliest motherfucker that's ever walked this earth. But then other days where I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, I'm okay. You know, she's all right type beat. So it's kind of a mind fuck, you know? And it's like, it's an inescapable mind fuck when you're doing something like this, which involves looking at yourself for hours at a time and like listening to yourself as well. If you're going to watch the VODs back, which people suggest that creators do. And so it's kind of like, fuck, how do I stand this, or how do other people stand this? And yeah, perhaps a bit annoying, but not ugly. I'll take it. And so, yeah, it's kind of like, it's one of those things you have to somehow push through the cringe somehow and hope that you'll make it through unscathed. I don't know if anyone gets through totally unscathed, but more or less, you know, to focus on the kind of internal, the feelings, Yeah, it's a little bit like being on stage. And it's weird because at least when you're on stage, you have the comforting knowledge that you're not being yourself. Well, depending on what you're doing. If you're playing a character, then it's kind of like, if people hate me, if people think I'm ugly or annoying or whatever, then at least there's a point of like a shielding between you and the audience. They interface with the character, not you. But if you're just being yourself, like if you're streaming and you're just talking about your life and like your actual thoughts and feelings, then it's kind of like if people hate you or think you're annoying or XYZ, then there is no barrier, there's no point of interface except directly with the kind of the heart of darkness, the core that is you, right? And that can be very scary. And I can see why a lot of people, even if they're streaming, right? Even if they're YouTubing, they actually put on a character. And so, yeah, it's one of those things. And I don't know, sometimes we do dabble in characters, like we've talked about. Sometimes we have Evil Cherry make an appearance, or Hawaiian Cherry, or the other kinds of stuff that we do. But it's like, yeah, all in all, I don't think I could maintain those for very long because it's exhausting, to be someone that you're not. And there's a reason why performers, like whether it's a comedian, a singer, like at a concert, there's a reason why their sets usually last, an hour or two. It's because past that, like something falters, whether it's your stamina, your enthusiasm, or just simply your physicality, like your body just not being able to push through. Like there's a reason why a lot of those things are capped at like a few hours, Whereas with streamers, usually, and we talked about this last time, someone like Shads, like he streams for like 11, 13, 20 hours at a time. And it's like, holy fuck, you can't be anything but yourself in those instances. I don't think anyone can maintain a character for that long without it slipping up, So yeah, there's something to be said about what happens when you mask for long enough. There's a reason why there's a meme online about what it means to be mask off. Like a lot of times people come online because they think it's easy to make a quick buck and kind of grift their way to an early retirement. But then, they say their true intentions, or they do or say something that kind of just reveals that this whole time they've maybe not been who they said they were. And so, yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's just an interesting place to be. And it's different. It's a different corner of the internet to be streaming than to be on YouTube, for example, or to be like writing articles behind the camera, etc. To be editing. It's weird and not something that I expected to be doing. I started this channel very much on a kind of blind faith whim because I wanted to get better at public speaking. And I don't know if I've gotten better at public speaking. I've gotten better at speaking, but I don't know if I've gotten better at public speaking because I don't really public speak. Like I just talk with you guys or with my friends. I'm not like on stage or anything, right? In the real world, that is. In my actual physical, waking, walking life. But I wanted to get better at public speaking, which is why I started my channel. And I didn't really have any expectations, I like to believe this is a kind of public speech, yes. And so, yeah, the Parks poem is basically the only other form of public speaking that I've really done in years. And I was shaking like a leaf. I was literally like so scared. I was just, my voice was not a voice. It was just a series of wavering kind of, whimpers. And so I don't know. But I will say in kind of interpersonal relationships and like even with people like, at the shops when I'm speaking to a cashier, I feel a lot more comfortable now than I did before I started streaming, which was a very huge issue that I had where I was functionally mute, I was so nervous that I could barely speak at school, in public. And it's weird because I don't know why that happened. Because like I said, I love people. But I guess just I got all twisted up and all knotted up and I just got so anxious. It was kind of at the peak of the pandemic when we were all locked inside. I don't know if you guys had a similar experience, but here in Australia, specifically in Victoria, which is a state that I live in, we had some of the harshest lockdown restrictions in the world. And so we literally couldn't leave the house unless 3 reasons, like you're going to get groceries, you're going to work, or you're going to like visit a family member or in need, kind of. And so for the majority of the time, we had to stay inside, and that was like roughly 1.5 to 2 years, right? And so that was weird. I think that almost in like, you know, when you play The Sims and their skills kind of degrade if you don't use them enough, that's how I felt about socializing. I felt like I hadn't used that muscle in so long that the skills had just degraded to the absolute bottom of the barrel. And so I had to start again from scratch. And so that was kind of why I even fathomed the idea of streaming. I was like, let's just practice. I spend lots of time talking to myself anyway, like a crazy person. We'll just see. And, you know, if it flops, I didn't tell anyone in my life that I was doing it until like I basically reached affiliate. That's when I told my parents because of you guys. And I was like, well, we'll just see what happens. And then, you know, over a year later, I'm still here, which is honestly fucking crazy, you know? Something that if you had told me what I'd be doing like 2 or 3 years ago, if you told me that I'd be streaming as like my full-time thing, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. Like, what? Why would you even say such a thing? And yet it's real. It's like, it's crazy. It's such a complete and utter honor. And when we talk about the vision, like we were talking about before, I just want to be able to do this right and to like just do it even better, to continue to upgrade, like the title of this stream says. We only upgrade. Whether that's in like kind of a small personal way, to be able to talk for longer without stuttering or like getting flustered, or a big way, like to fucking have a new studio, you know, by kind of sad circumstances, i.e. my brother moving out, but also happy circumstances. And so it's kind of like, yeah, that idea of taking things and seeing the positive in them. And yeah, it's like we only upgrade. No matter what. I hope that makes sense, you know? And sometimes even those periods of time where you think, wow, this really sucks, they can be a time of just like thinking and sometimes even healing. Resting can be very important, especially if you're creative. I'm sure plenty of you guys know this feeling. A lot of the times, more industrial people, they don't understand the creative workflow. And at least I'll speak for myself here. I seem like a very lazy person in comparison because a lot of the creating happens in very sporadic bursts, with a lot of the idea generation stuff happening internally, which is not visible to anyone else. So they just think you're kind of staring off into space when you're actually you're doing the initial steps of making something cool. And for industrial people that kind of make things with their hands, or that, you know, go work in an office, which those jobs are very extremely highly needed. So I'm not degrading those whatsoever. But it's like they don't understand that even if you have nothing to show for yourself, that you're still actually doing something. A lot of the time, something very mentally demanding, you know, like when you're thinking of an idea, or if you're trying to put a poem together word by word, it can be a very like strenuous process, but to the outside world, this is exactly what it looks like. Do 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 do. And they're like, are you, hello? Like, you know what I mean? Earth to Emmy. And I'm like, oh, sorry, I was just in my own head. And so it's like the creative process from start to finish looks extremely different to, I guess, something more like physical and hands-on. Because I guess if you were building a shed, for example, you start out with I was going to say ingredients, the materials, and you get to work, you start laboring, right? And over time, you can kind of see it being slowly built up till eventually you have a shed, right? But I think when it comes to making something, whether it's a painting or a song or a story, it's like it doesn't work like that. And a lot of the times for me, I flip between different practices, but like my process can be quite iterative. So I start with like a really shitty poem, like a poem that's like a couple lines. Very cliche, very rough around the edges, but then I go back and like, it's almost like applying different layers to it. You add more, you remove some, you add more, you remove some, until it's like where you want it, right? And that process is very different to building a shed. It's kind of like building a terrible shed, then knocking it down, then building a slightly kind of better shed, and then knocking that down, and then finally building the shed that you want. And that is a very counterintuitive process to people that are kind of dealing in the material world, right? And so it can be hard to bridge that gap of understanding of like, what are you actually doing / are you actually doing anything, or are you just being a lazy bum, like staring off into space? And I can understand, because like, you know, it's hard to actually, well, it's impossible to read someone's mind, but it can be hard to understand that, you know, sometimes you just go fucking months without really having anything to show for yourself until all of a sudden here's this finished product that might have taken that whole time to make, you know? The same thing can be said about like, you know, the Poetic Shop, for example. The products on there, they take time to think of the idea, to make, and then to put up the listing and stuff. And then they take even more time to actually like make to order and, you know, send them off. And so it's kind of like one of those weird things where the work is actually kind of invisible, you know, which is something we've also talked about on stream. The invisible work, especially if you do what you do well. And I don't think I'm at that point yet, at least with anything except some of my my stories that I feel proud of. My work is not invisible. You can see, like, well, even on this stream, like this part that isn't like fucking lit up in the background because I haven't figured that out yet, or when I turn the fan too much towards my side, you can hear it in the background. The work is not invisible. There are other people like Shads, which I used his example earlier, where his setup is so good it looks like a professional fucking movie, you know? And so that work that went into that is invisible. You can't see all the testing and kind of trialing that went into that, right? And so it's kind of a little bit, it's a little bit thankless for a while until all of a sudden you see all the fruits of your labor at once, which is a very weird feeling. It's very different to the progressive, kind of schedule from a materialist point of view. And so, yeah, it's weird. It's a bit crazy making sometimes, I'll say. But yeah. Cody, I'm sure you know exactly what I mean. And yeah, like you must get that same thing where you're working on a big piece and it's like, it feels like to you that it's taking so long, but it's because it's so detailed and intricate and it needs that amount of time. And so it can be hard to explain that to people unless they're also in that field. They understand the kind of process of it all, and they understand what it means to kind of stagnate for a while too, which I go through periods of quite often. Like I feel like, oh shit, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to sing about. Or like I just need rest, or like to go out into the world and find things to write about, you know, to tune that antenna and see what is out there. And so, yeah, pre-production, it's a very maligned and misunderstood phase to be in, you know? And you're right, Zach, you can't stay there forever. Sometimes it can be very comforting to have something permanently in pre-production, because that way it can never be judged, right? It can never be like out there for people to see and say it's good or bad, right? It's got this limitless potential because it is just staying as potential. But, you know, eventually I do agree it has to like make its debut, and for better or for worse. Sometimes I've sat on poems for like a year or longer because something was missing, and then to finally just be like, you know what, I'm going to sit down and just stay with this until it's done. And sometimes it's a matter of changing a word or a phrase, and then it's like, wow, this is totally finished, you know? Or just posting it anyway, because sometimes it's like, that's just how it's meant to be in all its like glory, flaws, you know, warts and all, to just send it out there and hope that the kind of message is still getting through. Even if it's like, you know, according to you, whether or not it is up for debate, but whether or not, according to you, it's like unfinished or rough around the edges, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, it's an interesting predicament to be in. And so, yeah, it's kind of like, you know, right now I'm kind of trying to get back into a little bit of writing starting with diary entries and then working my way into more like, you know, Aiden Oda stuff, or even just like really short form stuff like the micro poetry is a good way to keep that writing spirit alive, even if you don't feel like you have much to give. So that's why Twitter is a good like place for that. Even though Twitter is a bit of a like hellscape, at least right now. So I try not to use it too much, but it's one of my vices because there's just like so much to look at and so much to read that is kind of this endlessly dopamine offering machine. And so that can be quite hard to tear my eyes away from. But if I were using it maturely, I would just post my own stuff and leave. Like I do with Instagram, because I find Instagram quite insufferable. But with Twitter, it's still got its claws in me. It's got my number. And so I often find myself just like spending my time scrolling without really knowing why, but just doing it anyway. That can be creatively draining, even if you haven't personally produced anything. It's still using some of those creative faculties, which is weird. It's weird to be drained by something other than the process of creation. That's why it's a bit of a trap, because it makes you feel like you're being productive because you're like learning, but are you really learning? At least I'm talking to myself here when it's like, what have I learnt? I don't know. Someone's getting cancelled. Someone's like, you know, someone's doing this. It's like, yeah, it's kind of a false economy, which is something my dad talks about a lot. And I'm trying to kind of see if I can escape some of the clutches of those things, especially when it comes to social media. And so it's a little bit like, you know, I could spend 5 hours scrolling Twitter or YouTube, or I could put that time to a hobby of mine and see if I can actually get better instead of complaining. But, you know, it's one of those things. Social media is, of course, genetically engineered to be as addictive as possible. And it was kind of like, yeah, one of those things where I don't feel like blaming the consumer is entirely the story, you know, or entirely even, I guess, accurate. So, yeah, doom scrolling. It's honestly addictive. Welcome in, Mr. Powders. Welcome in, Bruce Libra. It's like, yeah, it's just one of those things. And it's hard because there's a severe case of like, you know, FOMO. Like when I was away for the past week at a very rural, like little town in the middle of nowhere where my internet didn't work, I felt like, oh, am I missing out on something? Has all this stuff happened and I'm just left in the dust? Will no one remember me when I come back and I'll just be this irrelevant fossil, right? But it's kind of like once you come back, you realize, well, you know, I didn't actually miss out. It was just that idea of feeling like you are. And so, yeah, I'm going to try, at least in 2025 this year, to be, yeah, a little bit more intentional, should I say, about that kind of practice, you know? Because it's not productive, at least not always. It can be a nice way to get a little bit of stress relief, to just mindlessly scroll. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's a bad habit of mine. And yes, Cody, you're right. I did see that you guys were very sweet and that made me feel very welcome. Still, it's this irrational fear, which is like surely not healthy. But it's like that is what the kind of implication is. If you just like leave the internet for a bit, you're going to miss out on something. And so, yeah, to kind of unlearn that, or just question it and then realize how ridiculous it sounds, that can be helpful to do. And so, yeah, you know, I think if I totaled up all the time I've spent on Twitter and YouTube and Reddit, I would be mortified to see that reflected back at me. And quite honestly, I would feel probably sick to my stomach thinking about all the time that I could have been doing other stuff. And yeah, like attention is the most valuable currency that there is. I totally agree. And it's why when you look at YouTube and stuff, people like the now controversial Mr. Beast, there's a reason why he does what he does in the ways that he does. It's been meticulously calculated to capture as much of your attention as possible for as long as possible. And literally at the expense of everything else, you know? It's kind of crazy. There are whole industries designed to capture your attention, and to do it better and, you know, slicker, to make sure that you don't even realize what's happening. But I think it's one of our modern problems, which requires a modern solution. Flashing lights makes lizard brain go, yeah, it's true. It's like, yeah. I mean, even here, I don't think I'm even blameless in this. I'm also kind of, by nature of being on Twitch and doing what I do, part of the problem. Like, you look at this stream, why did I want to get a projector so bad? Well, I wanted the stream to look even a fraction more visually appealing. Like, why is there certain things set up in certain ways? Like, even with good, medium, or bad intentions, like, the same outcome is desired, which is for people to have a generally better time, which results in more eyeballs, you know? I know you guys see through my fancy lights. It's like, what can I say? I'm part of the problem, guys. And all you can do is hope that while kind of remaining in a system which necessitates you being complicit, you can try and do a little bit of good in that space. Or even if not good, at least fucking neutral. You know what I mean? I think that's the least I can ask of myself. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's a weird, nebulous, and very precarious space to be in. I don't think I always do it right. I don't think I'm like the champion of these thoughts or these philosophies, but it's stuff that I think about often. And sometimes, you know, I should be the first to say, thinking in this way can also be very maddening, and it's like, it can stop you from doing things if you get stuck in this kind of analysis paralysis, right? Where you're just like, fuck. You think about something for too long, and you just kind of lose that idea of doing something in the first place. It's very easy to kind of tie yourself into knots that way, and that's something that I'm very guilty of doing too. But I think there's a nice balance to be found, like with all things, when we talk about balance on this stream. There's a middle ground that can be helpful while also being thoughtful. And so I guess it's part of my life's work to see if I can find that place. And so, yeah. Hard Solipsism says, I listened to a podcast and they had an ex-programmer of YouTube, and he said that they used pokey machines as a model for dopamine release. That's fucking crazy and makes total sense. Like, I mean, the social media sites like YouTube and especially TikTok and stuff, they have been extensively studied and gamified to be as addictive as possible. Literally, it's like playing a game, you know? The more likes you get, the more interactions you get, the more money you get. It's like people, rewiring people's brains. And it's a weird space to be in, you know? Very, very weird. I've had to reconcile with that a lot, because it's like, fuck, how do you exist and try at least to do no harm, you know? When you're like, just by nature of being in the same space, you're somewhat doing harm, or at least turning a blind eye to it, you know? I don't know, and I don't have the answers. But to like attempt to kind of do what you can is, I think, at least a good place to start, you know? Every little bit helps. I think that's true. But yeah, Riku, welcome in. I hope that makes sense. This is one big long ramble, guys. It's stuff that is probably not that interesting, but keeps me up at night sometimes. And as someone that likes being a creative, I understand that it can be a little bit maddening, you know? And yeah, maybe this is all just one big justification for me daydreaming, like staring off into space and saying, oh, no, I'm working right now. Shh, shh. But I think it's true. Like there's just different workflows depending on what you're actually doing. And sometimes it's hard to bridge the gap of understanding between the two. Like the shed example, or like the iterative process of making something and then making it again, but better over and over again until you're happy with something. Like that's generally my MO when it comes to writing. And so I have the first draft, which is like literally a steaming pile of dog shit. And then the final copy, which is hopefully, you know, less dog shit. If you're lucky. But yeah, I know a lot of you guys out there are creatives too. And so whether it's painting or making music or simply, like we were talking about earlier, living artfully, it's interesting to think about the different ways in which you can hone, refine, and just sharpen your craft. Often it's in ways that you wouldn't expect. Sometimes getting better at one thing will somehow inadvertently make you better at another thing. Like for instance, learning to public speak or whatever, like doing this and streaming and stuff, has kind of, you know, if I wanted to get a little bit abstract with it, it's kind of helped me get better at singing in a way. Because talking for so long, you have to really learn how to use your voice in a way that's not damaging. You have to learn how to control your breath so you're not just like panting for air at the end of every sentence. And you have to kind of just get accustomed to how your voice sounds. So it helps when it comes to picking out notes and tunes. So through streaming, I got better at singing, right? This is another kind of separate example, through snorkeling, because I've done that a few times, especially in the summer when I go to the beach with my friends. I like to go snorkeling, and in a weird way, snorkeling and meditation are very similar, and you can kind of flip them. You can reverse them and have them go interchangeably, because to snorkel right, you have to start focusing on your breath and like breathing in deep and fully. And yes, it's also, of course, extremely relaxing. But if you don't know how to breathe in that technique, you will start to panic and you won't be able to snorkel properly. And so snorkeling helped me get better at meditation, and meditation helped me get better at snorkeling. And so it's less like, how do I explain this? It's less like separate disciplines of like stars in the sky and more like a spindly web of things all connecting to one another. Like, you know, if you want to use a star example, they're constellations that can kind of inform one another. And so sometimes you don't realize, but what you're doing can actually help you, even if it seems really far out and abstract. Like, oh, how does underwater basket weaving help with my current discipline? But you never know. You might find some way that it can relate. And so it's something that I've noticed. Like a lot of the times when you start focusing on something new, like a hobby or even a profession, you can kind of find transferable skills that will then go on to like help you in your daily life. And to me, it's obvious with streaming and stuff. So yeah, it's one of those things. You guys are telling me that we're in ads now. That's cool. I will take a breather for a sec. Speaking of breath control. And holy shit, 2 hours in. We're going to do affirmations after this. And then maybe do an ad. We kind of already did an ad for the Poetic Shop, but I'll just do my thing. And we'll see where the rest of the stream takes us. How do you guys feel about the projector? It's alright, you know. I still think the right hand side looks a little bit barren. So by next stream, we'll see what I can do about that. But I'm infinitely more comfortable right now than I was in the last stream because I have my trusty fan right here. And so, holy shit, I'm so happy. It's still a little bit stuffy in here because it's just a fan and not like an evaporative cooler. But it's miles and miles better than, you know, the previous stream. You could see me getting increasingly fucking sweaty and red in the cheeks. You know, Sea Locket has a new channel just of like the entirety of these VODs from start to finish. And I'm pretty sure if you like, just like checked out the first frame of like, you know, the beginning of this stream and the last one, you could just see the only difference is the color of my cheeks and the sheen of sweat on my forehead. And so, yeah, that's kind of embarrassing, but what can you do? Now, if I ever get too too shiny, so to speak, I can just move this fan. And so, yeah. Anyway, welcome into M2. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me right now because it says we're still in ads. And to our friend here with a name that I can't read out. I cannot read this name, but just know it's funny. A friend called me crazy for telling him mermaids are real. He clearly doesn't know about your channel. Aren't you a charmer? It's, oh, Dilong, oh, there you are. It's funny because you changed your name to something just as, what's the word? Just as funny to read out loud as your previous name. And it's kind of weird, but I've always loved the mermaid aesthetic. And so I've enjoyed growing my hair out to this length because, like I've said in previous streams, you can see the front of it and it looks long, right? You can see this, but this is just like the front. The back is even longer because it's kind of got layers. And so you can see here, it's basically waist level, waist length. And yeah, so it's kind of very much in that aesthetic. But I don't know, I've enjoyed all different lengths of hair. Like I said, I had a pixie cut in high school. And so I've kind of seen it at every single length, which is interesting. And I've also had a couple of different hair colors too. So I've been blonde, I've been pink haired, I've been pink and purple haired, I've been, I had ombre and stuff. But I think, I can't see myself, at least not currently, doing anything to color it, not just because it's expensive and high maintenance, but there's something about just like a single solid color, which may look boring to some, but to me, it's just, it feels very, what's the word? I don't know, like maybe elegant, or something. And so, yeah, it's kind of my vibe for a hot minute. We'll see if I ever decide to change it up a little. But yeah, it's very low maintenance, which I like. I have to literally just do nothing to it, which is a great way to be for me. The kind of lazy girl style. Flamboyant, I love that. It's like with my my blonde hair, or, you know, when I had different colored styles, it was kind of like, you know, I had to maintain it every few weeks. Otherwise, you'd start seeing that kind of, that strip of my dark hair growing back in, which would look a little bit funky. And so I'd have to go back to the salon and sit in the chair for hours and then pay hundreds of dollars. And it was painful, you know? And so it was kind of like, it was one of those things where I just realized I actually have nice enough hair to just leave it and just see what happens. And so now all I do is get it cut whenever I feel like the layers have kind of grown out too much. And I don't even go to the salon to cut it anymore. I get my friend to cut it for me, which is kind of crazy to think how much I've changed in terms of what I will do to my hair. I don't think I could fathom letting someone random, you know what I mean, like not a professional cut it, but yeah, just being like, you know what, fuck it, let's see what happens. It'll grow out. Glistening like a majestic stallion is absolutely hilarious, and that's a nice thing to say. Though, I've mentioned this before, I want to make sure you guys don't get the wrong idea. I think this webcam and these lights do me a lot of favors because, especially when your hair is dark, it reflects light very well. And so in person, I'm not sure if it would look this glistening. It might be just a regular dark, very dark brown. Which is something I used to specify a lot as a kid for some reason, even though I know it looks basically black. But my brother has genuinely black hair, and when we kind of stand next to each other, you can tell the difference. I don't know, I guess, again, it's about what I was talking about earlier, that kind of dedication to accuracy, even at the expense of looking a little bit insufferable. And so, yeah, it's okay. And I have a love-hate relationship with it because I have, you know, sometimes I have a hard time getting it to behave. And then other times, like when I'm about to have a shower, it just looks as majestic as I've ever seen it. And I'm like, why are you doing this to me? You know, like, why are we playing these games? But, you know, all in all, I'm happy with it. And yeah, I'm definitely more happy than when I was very ill and it was just fucking falling out in clumps down the drain, which is a very scary sight, and I've talked about ad nauseum, but yeah. Yeah, maybe next time we'll do hair dye roulette. Oh my god. Maybe for a good cause, because I've been wanting to donate my hair for a while, but when I donate it, I want it to still be long after it gets cut, you know? So, we'll see. I want to donate like a ponytail's worth. So I basically need to grow out double a ponytail's worth of hair to still feel like, you know, satisfied after it gets cut. So that might take a while. I'm not sure how much hair grows every year if you don't get it cut or anything. Like, is that too much? I don't know. But it might take, yeah, a little while longer until I'm ready. But it's a fun experience, even though it does get increasingly difficult to maintain as you go. It's like, you know, some of my guy friends, or I remember even when I had short hair, just getting in the shower, you step outside and then it dries like instantly. Nowadays, it's like it takes a lot longer, or I have to use a hairdryer and stuff like that. So it's a whole procedure, guys. Totally boring. And so, yeah. Anyway, now we're going to do our affirmations. And so, thank you, Cody, for the reminder. Let me get my notepad up. I got to show you about a type of poetry called, is it Solea? It's widely used in flamenco, and I know you play the guitar. That's beautiful. And yeah, I actually have a flamenco guitar. It's a vintage flamenco guitar from, I think, the 1930s, if I'm not mistaken, with like a little certificate, or not a certificate, a little card of like authenticity, which is very cool. I don't think I do that guitar justice though, because it's so beautiful and I'm such an amateur. But with the right player, the right guitar player, I think it could just bring someone to tears with how beautiful it sounds. It's got a really nice tone. And so, yeah, please tell me more, maybe here or in the server as well. Here's the, I can't remember if you joined us already, but here's the link. So you can share with the class. And here are our affirmations. So, if you guys are new, this is something we like to do once per stream, usually like halfway through, so roughly 2 hours in. And these are kind of like, I don't know, little presents, little gifts from the wonderful Amy Walker. There's a video that I took these from. So, affirmations. You can check them out, or check out the video where I got these from. And yeah, we like to do them because it kind of started back when I really needed some motivation, or not motivation, like anxiety soothing affirmations for myself. And then I realized, oh, instead of doing this just for myself, like in private or when no one else can hear it, why not share them and kind of have this moment of like centeredness and relaxation and good feeling, which is something I very much subscribe to, together. So, without further ado, it's my pleasure to tell you, yes. Yes, you are. You are ready. You are equipped. You are connected. You are unique. You are gorgeous. You are loved. And my personal favorite, you are alive. So thank you for being here in this stream. But more importantly than that, you know, more importantly than just being here in this stream, thank you for being here on this earth in general. I know firsthand that it's not always easy. Certainly not always easy, but it is always, always, always times infinity, always important. And I do believe that we can make life good for one another, and that's worth sticking around for. So thank you. Yeah, you really got to love the affirmations. I don't really do much except say them, so I hope you guys feel the love from Amy Walker. She's an incredible kind of guru, like creator, singer, accenter. And when I say that, I mean she does accents from around the world. She actually did the Australian accent very accurately, which is hard. Not many people like outside of Australia can do it well, but she actually killed it. And so that, you know, that requires kudos on my behalf. And her channel, like, yeah, she's still kicking, like she's still like uploading, and I don't know if she's still as popular, but she should be. She's a living legend in my eyes. So and thank you, Cody. That's the little script if you guys would like it for yourselves. Honestly, just like copy and pasting them into a notes app and just like saying them once per day, even if we don't stream together or something, just hearing them or reading them can be really transformative. And I know it sounds woo, it sounds weird, but like once you actually do it, you see what I mean. And so there they are. Thank you, Cody. And Emto has some research for us here. Head hair grows on average about 1.25 centimeters per month. which is roughly 15 centimeters per year. That seems like a lot, you know? 15 centimeters, that's half a ruler. Oh my gosh. And that's assuming you don't cut it and it doesn't fall, like it doesn't have breakage and stuff. Wow. Okay. Thank you for that. And yes, Cody, always very, very helpful. I appreciate it. Now I guess, you know, the 1-2 punch, the shot chaser. After our affirmations, I'll just alert you guys to the fact that I have my little merch store here, which you guys are welcome to check out. We were looking at it a bit before as a demonstration, but I wanted to unveil my new posters. I've got a couple, and I think I actually forgot that there was another one that I wanted to add. We've got this one here, pretty in blue. We've got Pink Vibes, it was funny, and More Money Now, which is very interesting and devilish. Oh, and also Side Glitch. So it's funny because when I make these files, and I'm terrible at this, but I will just like keyboard smash and call my files like something random. And when it comes to naming them, I'm like, oh fuck, what do I name this, right? And so my mum basically named these for me. And it's very funny because, like, I don't know, she's very much a Pink Vibes kind of gal, you know? Yeah, pretty in blue. So if you guys are interested in some cool, funky looking posters, I really like this one because, I don't know, I feel like sometimes I wake up and I have a red eye. And I took a photo once because I'm like, wow, this looks freaky. And then I was like, what am I ever going to do with this picture? But it ended up looking like a cool design, right? So the More Money Now, I'm going to consider it to be a good luck charm. If you want more money now, then this is the poster to get for good feeling and some money making aura and vibes. And as for the Pink Vibes, I've been meaning to post this one for a while. It's like, this is me, by the way, in a dress that I actually have, but I haven't worn for a while. I don't know if it would fit me as well anymore. Very psychedelic. I was almost going to call it psychedelic magic, but my mum said Pink Vibes was the way, so here we are. And yeah, hopefully not too headache inducing. That's always the fear when it comes to making something like this. But this one, less trippy, pretty in blue. That's also me with the classic mirror selfie and some, you know, fucking very flattering shadows that make it look like I just about have abdominal muscles, which I don't know if that's exactly the truest case. But yeah, just a little composite with some cool textures and some song lyrics in the background as well. I like that idea of making a collage. There's a lot to look at. It's very like theater of cruelty type beat where your senses are just being totally overstimulated, but hopefully upon every new look and the longer time you spend with it, the more you kind of uncover and unravel. And so that's kind of the MO for some of these. Even though like I'm trying to also lean more into a bit of simplicity. So the next one that I put up I think will be very simple compared to those. The rest of this stuff is pretty similar. Though I just want to say, because we're adding more stuff, now you have to press the load more button. So don't be alarmed. The apparel is still there. The hoodies and everything like that. As well as the stuffed toys, which should be coming back into being available to order soon. I know it says out of stock, but we just need to change that. So let me know in the DMs if you actually want something, but you don't know how to actually buy it because, yeah, we've done all this ourselves. And so we're definitely like, certainly I'm not that technologically minded. Sometimes these things need a bit of tinkering. And so, yeah, posters, postcards, apparel, toys, stickers, you name it, all kinds of cool stuff. And everything that you purchase goes directly back into supporting this channel. And of course, I pay my mum and my auntie fairly. They basically set their own prices, and I'm like, yep, that's fine. And yeah, lots of free stuff with every order, especially because, you know, with these magnets, we're trying to just get rid of them. The calendar magnet especially, because, you know, I'm just going to say after halfway through the year, it gets a little bit like diminishing returns, like with every month that passes, getting a calendar for the year. So that's my little spiel over. And like I was saying earlier, if you like some of this stuff, but you don't think you can quite afford it, please send me a message because we can work something out. or yeah, if you are really hurting, you know, this stuff is always just available anyway, which you can just enjoy for yourself. So yeah, there'll definitely be a discount in December. That's so true. But until then, I mean, $5 I think seems pretty reasonable. They're decently sized as well. I should bring one here for an example. But yeah, they're decently sized. They've got all the months of the year. Imagine there was one missing. And yeah, they're just like a nice way to keep track of what you've got going on, you know? And so yeah, feel free to check it out. Here's the link. And I do a little advertisement once per stream because, you know, girls gotta eat. Martinez, welcome in. Thank you for the hydrate. Thank you for the stretch. I'll do that in just a sec. If I had to pick my favorite thing from the store, favorite thing and favorite affordable thing are two different categories. So probably like the hoodie would be my favorite thing because I mean, it's summer now, so I don't wear it as much. But in the winter, I used to wear my Emmy hoodie like every single day. It's just so comfortable, and I got it like a little bit oversized as well. Even though it can be, you can describe it as a little bit wankerish to wear your own name across your chest. It's just so fucking comfortable and kind of stylish, you know, whether you're going black or white, like those colors or shades go well with basically all kinds of outfits. You can dress it up or dress it down, and so that would be my favorite thing. But it is quite expensive, though pretty competitive compared to other merch stores. If we're going for affordable, it's got to be the stickers. Like $10 and you get all these cool stickers. It's like basically a tasting palette of all the different posters, and a couple of extras like the Emmy and a hat as well. So yeah, that would be my picks. And in the month of December last year, we had a sale, so that was even cheaper. But for now, because the sale is over, until next time, we'll have to see. I think $10 is still pretty reasonable as well. So anyway, Cody, your favorite thing is the Pat Thick? That's hilarious. The postcards are fun as well, yeah. Like the Squidward one, oh my gosh. It's so cursed. I don't even know what to say. But yeah, that's my little spiel over. Zach, thank you so much for spending some time here. And yes, at 3 a.m, sleep is definitely on the menu. Be well, and I hope to see you again around here sometime, or maybe I'll check out your stream again. Let me shout you out before you go. And there we are. It's been glitchy recently, so I hope this actually works. Come on now. Yeah, there we go. If you guys aren't following, you totally should. It's a great vibes around there, and I don't think gaming is really what Zach does usually, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so a rare bit of gaming. There's lots of cool fun things, and I always have a nice time when we hang out. So let's see, we've done our affirmations, we've done our little plug. What else is there to even talk about? I don't even know. I don't really feel like packing or unpacking rather, because I'm still feeling kind of lazy. Emto, you asked earlier if I've recovered from parks. I think I've still got the post-parks blues, and I haven't booked accommodation for next year, though I really should, because I'm definitely going. So it's like just, you know, it's a no-brainer at this point. But yeah, I'm like, oh, we're being raided. Dude, thank you so much. The actual goat for backgrounds. I don't have my green screen open right now, so I can't really show it, but the saucer, the scout and the saucer of these incredible backgrounds. Thank you so much for the raid. Dude, I didn't even know that you streamed. Let me see here. Let me shout you out, my friend. And yeah, how was it? What did you get up to? That looks like an interesting game. Oh my goodness. Miners, welcome back. The stickers are very cute, aren't they? I don't know where to put them, because I don't know, I just get so precious, like, oh my gosh, once I stick this down, it's like stuck there forever. And so, yeah, I'm like, oh god, I can't decide. But they're also just nice to look at, you know, even if you keep them pristine in your sticker sheet. You played some Uncharted. Oh, interesting. How would you rate it? I haven't played Uncharted, but I know lots of people that do. And yeah, not to worry. I hope you had a wonderful stream. And of course, if you need to raid and fade, that's always acceptable. I am the first and most vocal raid and fader. Like seriously, I will yeet myself into bed or like into a shower or getting some food while I just listen to the dulcet tones of whoever I raided into in the background, until eventually, I go to sleep properly and I turn off my computer. So if you need to do any of that stuff, I totally understand. We're just chatting right now, and yeah, I want to show you guys this again. How cool is this? Maybe I can like get some ideas from you guys about what 3D printed things I could add to the store. Because, this is something that is someone else's design, so I can't sell that. But we could make something like from scratch, like a cherry, like, I don't know, cherry glasses or something, or I don't know, just something cool. And yeah, bookmarks, that's a great idea. Something related to this channel. So bookmarks are a perfect idea for all of you book-loving friends out there, or even just like people that would like a piece of art that's also functional, right? Because really, the printer that my mum got is very professional and very heavy duty, and so we can print some really fucking cool stuff, So no matter how ambitious, just let me know some of your ideas. An incense burner sounds really nice as well. And again, because this printer can use plastics that, or materials that won't get melted in high temps, like incense burners would actually work as well. Sorry. It's my pet with a broken tail. So look at this. He's like multicolored. Look at that. So this was one of our tests, which was, I'm glad that we tested this because, yeah, like I was saying, I played with it a bit too hard, so the tail came off. Which is why I'm glad that, yeah, we didn't just say, oh yeah, let's just put this up, not that we would, but if we made our own version and then, yeah, didn't play test it, that would be a bad idea. So this is in the R&D phase of our printer. It's very detailed and kind of spiky. So it's good to get a feel of these things before they actually go to market, if you know what I mean. Bookmarks are a great idea. Incense burner / holder is a great idea. I don't know what other cherry themed things people would want, I think little trinkets would be cool, like keychains, a cherry keychain, or like, yeah, some of the memes, like a Patrick without getting sued into next year, a Pat Thick keychain or something, or like a little Pat Thick figurine with the big booty. I think that could be totally iconic. Whether it's in like the full to scale version or like a tiny one that can go on your phone, that would be kind of interesting, or on your fridge. So literally the possibilities are endless. I'm so excited. My mom's actually printing out some things right now that are more for utility and function than anything else. Like little holders for each of the kind of, this is like old jargon and stuff, but like the filament in between to make sure it doesn't get too humid. And so, yeah, it's like she's basically doing the responsible thing first and printing stuff that she actually needs. Because it's funny, once you actually get a 3D printer, you don't need to buy any other like tools or equipment because you can just print them. It's crazy. It's like a very trippy thing. People will print out tools that they can then use to work on the 3D printer. So it's like a self-generating thing, which is quite funny. Yeah, please, no one sue me, please. I just don't want to deal with that. Even though we are using Patrick's likeness, it's a totally different character. Yeah, they're so cool. They're like, it's kind of mesmeric in a way to see it actually print. And yeah, there is so much cool stuff to make. My mom has got the setup where there's actually a little camera that films the process. And so once it's done, you can see the full video, which is like a time-lapse video, which is so cute. And for this one, I might get her to send me the video because it was like, yeah, I think it was a couple hours of printing. Yeah. Let's see if I can get this up close and personal. You guys see that? It's like this blue purple like thingy. And yeah, it's funny to see it get built up from the ground up. And yeah, like literally I'm so excited because we can make so much stuff. If you can think of it, you can make it. If you can dream it, you can do it. And that's like so exciting because now it just means that we can be even more independent. Like we don't have to rely on an outside supplier. Like if we ever wanted to make keychain things, for example, but we didn't know how to do it, like we'd have to go and ask someone to do it for us, which might involve them kind of taking a cut or whatever, and us not being able to know if the quality is up to scratch. It just leaves you open to an extra liability in a sense. Now that we have our own printer, like we have not only full creative control, but full quality control as well, which is so exciting. It's like, you know, it's just that extra layer of being able to do things how you want, when you want, etc., etc. You know, much like the website, which we built by ourselves. Like we didn't get a pre-built one from online or got like someone on Fiverr to do it for us. Like my mum literally painstakingly learnt how to do it and like how to put everything up, etc. How to set everything up, the back end that like is complete jargon to me. And like how to print on t-shirts and stuff. Like all that stuff we learnt how to do ourselves because we wanted to do it right. And to not have to rely on other people that might end up disappointing you guys, which is the worst case scenario. Or disappointing us in the sense that like, you know, they take too high a cut or they kind of, yeah, they don't really seem to care that much about the quality because they're just getting paid no matter what. So it's like we can really like laser focus in on what it looks like. And yeah, like every aspect of the creation process, which is such a relief, you know. It's like, yeah, it's just like really, it's nice. And so that's why I'm so proud of it actually, and why I feel comfortable kind of doing the promo once a stream. I think otherwise if it was a product that I didn't fully have confidence in, it'd be a lot harder to like, I don't know, basically sell something. So yeah, this little guy was a prototype and oh shit, you didn't see that. I just dropped it. Oh my god. He's kind of like our benchmark, you know? We're trying to see what the different nozzles do, how the different colors look, how much playing and aggressive playing it takes to actually break, which we found out too early, how it articulates and, you know, how long it takes to print. But I think I already said that, but etc., etc. So yeah, maybe a cherry dragon you can expect in the future. This is my little friend. It does look like a gecko though. My week so far has been very pleasant. Thank you. Yeah, this little guy is ... I mean was. He's unfortunately now a million pieces on the floor, but I guess that's a good test as well. Like if it drops, is it going to shatter? He's in one piece. Da-da-da-da. It looks so weird. It looks way better in person, let me just say that. Because it's so shiny that it doesn't really show up properly on camera. Wow. Anyway. My week has been very pleasant so far. Thank you for asking. And I hope it continues to be pleasant. I think on Sunday I have philosophy club again. So I haven't done any studying. It's not even like a university thing. It's like a friend thing that we've all organized. And yet I am behind on the studies. Still though, it's like a fun way to just connect and like socialize, and so I feel like it should be fine. More specifically, I'm very excited for the week after, where I get to have my friend on stream to like chat with you guys. And I got to make sure that you guys are bringing your A game, you know, that you're going to send all your love and support, because it's like it's so nerve-wracking. I know from experience how nerve-wracking it is to be on stream or to be on camera for like basically the first time. And so she might be a little bit shy. It just takes a little bit of warming up until, yeah, no doubt she'll be sharing embarrassing stories of me or, you know, our friendship to hopefully your delight. So Yeah, that's happening next Saturday, I believe. And yeah, Cody, you're so right. The projector. Look at this. I mean, funnily enough, he is actually that color. But like, he's like a celestial being. And speaking of the projector, I can actually change the color behind me, which I wanted to flex before, but then I totally forgot. Let's see. Does this work? See, now it's changing this. So it must be that is the thing that's messing with the color balance. I look a lot more pink now and like it's crazy. Oh wait, no. Okay, there we go. Or I think there's a way to make it voice activated, but I don't know how to do that. Music mode. What the hell? Hello? Hello? Smooth operator. Smooth operator. Oh, guys, we're gonna have fun with this. Okay, wait, sensitivity. Can raise it to 100%. Oh, but now it's picking up the sound of the fan, which hopefully you guys can't hear. What does music mode mean? Is it this microphone? Wait. Is it this microphone? Or is it that microphone? Sorry, this is like admin stuff that should happen off stream, but just wait. That's too much. No need to ask, he's a smooth operator. Smooth operator. Fuck my voice. Smooth operator. Okay, it's kind of mid. I'm not even talking and it's already working. Okay, anyway, that's enough of that. Yeah, you can do so much stuff with this. Oh my god. You can change the color. You can make your own custom color. That's freaking cool. Smooth operator. Coast to coast, LA to Chicago, Western Mail. Fuck. Across the north and south to Chicago. Love for sale. Which one do you guys like the most? See, this one turns me a little bit yellow. What about green? Green? A bit of green in your life. Is that giving? Oh shit. Me singing that while running over pedestrians in GTA. It's so real. Yeah, scuffed operator is true as well. I don't know. Maybe we'll have a, actually, I've got something. I'm cooking something. We'll have like a cherry redeem thing where you can choose the color. How's that? The purple one? I do like purple. Where's purple here? Is this purple? Wow. It looks so crazy. Okay. We're back to blue. Let's see if I can make my own. Let's just try pure purple. That's pure blue again. Shit. I don't know how to use this app, guys. I just got this today, so I'm still figuring it out. Blue. Cherry red. I like that. Ooh. How can I change this? This helps prove that Emmy looks beautiful in any light color. That's nice of you to say, Cody. I hope to... Yeah. I was gonna say prove you wrong, and then I realized actually I don't want that. The vampire color? Yeah, that's right. The vampire colorway. I'll actually get knowledge on how to use that thing and change it to something cool. But yeah, we could have like a cherry redeem where you can choose. what color it is. Because I can pick. Oh. How do you make purple? Oh, that's grey. And once again, I look yellow. That's kind of cool, even though it makes me look yellow. The laser. You can turn off. Oh, you can make it stationary. Whoa! Oh my god, that looks so weird! Wow. Wait a sec. The yellow is Emmy Simpson, I know, right? Wait. Is it working? It's just... Now guys, if you want to see me wear something other than my streaming uniform that I've been wearing for every single fucking stream, the fucking, yeah, the initiative up here, it does exactly that. And also, I forgot to say, when I was at the Elvis Festival, I actually got a caricature drawing done of myself. And once we reach the goal, I'll also show you guys. So it's kind of like a little added bonus. Yeah, there we go. What was I up to? I kind of like this. I like how it's very, yeah, very rainbowish. So everyone's happy. Yeah, it's kind of neat, huh? The donation goal is basically $1 for every day of the year. So, because I'll be doing one outfit for every stream for a year. I know that sounds a bit weird, but it's like, it might not take a year, it might take longer than that, but it'll be a year's worth of streams. I think that's what we are. I don't know, is that what we decided? Because if I don't stream on a day, yeah. 365 outfits is what we're going for. And so, don't mind me just brushing my hair. I kind of like that. It's like, it's so majestic. I feel like, you know. It's like a mushroom trip made manifest. Anyway. Emmy just proving that she can't talk and do something else at the same time. Maybe this is a nice time for me to ask my favorite question. Usually we do it a little bit earlier, but this time we're doing it very late in this stream. I want to know, if you're comfortable enough to share, how you're feeling in one word or less. One word or less. And yes, the less could be just simply nothing. It could be a full stop, it can be an exclamation mark. Because sometimes the act of distilling can be unexpected. So how I'm feeling is curious. Cody, you're feeling creative. That's wonderful. And I should say, there is no right or wrong answer. Whether it's good, bad, in between, I want to know. I'm feeling curious because of this new setup and this new background. Thinking about, you know, we only upgrade. How to upgrade even further. And what is that? What is that? Oh, it's the bow. I think. Yes, there's a bow up there that you guys can't see, but the bottom of it is just like doing that. And so, yeah. I'm also curious about what to potentially eat for dinner, even though it's like nearly 11 p.m. because I didn't really have dinner. I mean, I kind of had some watermelon, but that was it. So, ooh. Don't mind me just destroying my entire room. I'm trying not to be too rough here, even though my hair gets so knotty. Yeah, what do you guys think I should have for dinner? Long gone are the days where I would get a knock at the door and my dad would just bring me something randomly, which made me seem like it's the most spoiled brat possible. I'm really out here fending for myself. Meatballs, that's a classic. Spaghetti meatballs. Actually, this is a nice story. On the way to the Elvis Festival, which was like an 8.5 hour drive from where I currently live, my grandma had actually packed some meatballs just like for the road trip for my auntie and I. And so when we took like one of our first stops, we just sat down and we had some meatballs, and they were very filling. So that's not a bad idea. I have to get my grandma. I'll bring her up. Like, I know you're meant to be sleeping right now, but do you think you could cook some more meatballs? In Greek, they're called geftes. Geftes, yeah. There's a Spanish recipe called cachopo. I'm so sorry about that pronunciation. Literally just take me around the back and shoot me. It's like a cordon bleu on roids. Oh, interesting. Do you like Egyptian food? Oh, I'm going to absolutely show my ignorance here. We don't have that much Egyptian food, like I was going to say at this house, but like, you know, when I used to live with my parents, because really the only Egyptian food that we'd eat is like what we call vine leaves. And so it's also debated if it's Egyptian food, because like Greek people say, oh no, we made that. And then like Lebanese people say, oh no, we made that. Vine leaves basically like a leaf from like literally a tree. And inside there's like rice, and sometimes you can make it with meat and then other spices. And I really love them. I haven't had them in a hot minute. Then the leaves all wrapped up are kind of steamed, and yeah, they're just beautiful. Other than that, I don't really know. They're so good. And actually both of my grandmas make them. But so one of my grandmas is Greek and the other one is Egyptian. They have their own version of vine leaves. One of them is a bit thicker with meat, and one of them is a bit thinner and smaller, kind of like the size of a finger, and it's vegetarian. So it's interesting, like the little differences between them, sometimes personal and sometimes cultural. My Egyptian grandma, she's unfortunately very ill, and so she doesn't really cook anymore. But when she used to make them, oh, I could eat like 20 at a time. They were so good. Egyptian food, I'd like to try more. My dad has spoken a bit because he came to Australia when he was 16. So he has very faint memories. He's like 60 now, 60 plus, of what it used to be like in Egypt. He talked about how to eat chicken was like a delicacy because it was so, like, it was kind of for the rich people, you know. But now when he came to Australia, chicken was relatively affordable, and he used to like eat it every single day because it was like, oh wow, we can live like kings type beat. And then now he's basically sick of it because he had it every single day. And so it's very interesting how it comes back around, you know. Nowadays, I think he's more of a seafood head, which I'm very similar, which is weird because like I honestly always seem to have expensive taste without meaning to. Because like one of my favorite foods is lobster, which is like fucking crazy, right? I don't have it that much, but I do like seafood, but lobster is my favorite, honestly. Is he a Coptic? So forgive me because I'm going to be very ignorant here. I think he used to be, but because my mum is Greek Orthodox, he had to convert to be able to get married. And so he basically converted. But the thing is, like, we aren't really practicing or anything. So no matter what, like, we're basically just Greek Orthodox on paper, and to make my grandma happy because she's very religious, but like we're not really practicing. It's funny because just recently she gave me a little tub, like a little small bottle of holy water, and she was like, spray this around your house, and I was like, okay, I'll just do it. And so yeah, it's just very interesting, you know. It's like I don't mind just going to church on like Easter and Christmas sometimes to make my grandma, that is, happy. But I'm so far removed from the kind of actual like religions and stuff itself that it's basically like more of a cosplay than anything else. You know, which I hope isn't offensive. It's just like the actuality of the situation. She is literally so, what's the word? Excuse me. I apologize. The fan is making me sneeze. She's from such a different era that it's like basically unheard of to be irreligious, as in not religious. And so I think she would basically have a heart attack if we told her that we weren't religious. But yeah, so I don't know if that explains it. My dad basically had to switch over to our side. She is very devout, that's right. She always wears a cross, and yeah, she's always saying, oh, come with me to church. And I'm like, oh, you know, I just, I've got something to do. Though honestly, yeah, I'd rather just hang out with her than go to church. But if I have to go to church just to hang out with her, then I might be swayed. But yeah, the churches are gorgeous, that's true. Like, I've, very long time ago, like, I've been to weddings, when I was a kid that were, like, at Greek churches, and I was just like, wow, they're so beautiful with all the icons and everything. Yeah, even now, like, going to church for Easter, specifically, because there's, like, a whole community thing, I go for the appreciation of the community rather than the actual religious stuff. Because it's just nice to be in a big group of people that are really happy and like enjoying themselves, and yeah, that sense of, I don't know, camaraderie or whatever it is kind of rare elsewhere. So I can see why people do find comfort in religion, even if it's not for me specifically. Which is not to say that I'm, you know, unspiritual, but it's something that I tend to keep mostly to myself. Yeah, it's very much hippity hoppity, I'm now Orthodox property. That's literally what my dad did. And I'm pretty sure he had to get baptized as an adult, which is quite a funny experience, because usually when you get baptized, you're like an infant, right? And so you're like a baby, usually naked, that gets dunked in a like bucket of water, right? And so he basically had to stand, I think, in his like underwear in this like tub of water and just like have the priest put water on his head. And yeah, it's a very funny visual. It's like things we do for love, I suppose. I don't think my grandma would have let my mum get married if my dad didn't do that. So, which is kind of wild to think about. But of course, he was like more than willing. He was more than happy to do it. Again, more of a cosplay than anything. I don't think I haven't really asked him much, but I don't know how closely he follows that sort of thing. I know he believes in something, but yeah. To what extent, I'm not sure. Anyway, as for the other Egyptian foods, I have not tried, is it mashi and kosheri? I'm so sorry for the pronunciations, but I'm sure they're very good as well. And yeah, like, holy shit, the vine leaves are really good. My dad used to eat this thing that was like artichokes and rice, and I personally don't really like artichokes. Maybe my palate is just not refined enough. But yeah, it's like, it's very interesting how the foods also have kind of like historical context behind it, quite obviously, right? But like my dad's story about how chicken was like a kind of special treat coming to Australia. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of history, culture, and even personality in food, which is interesting. And yeah, it's like, you know, we all have our like our comfort meals, our favorite foods, and like I was saying earlier, my favorite food is lobster, which is fucking ridiculous, right? Like, why couldn't it be like ramen, for example? I swear I didn't intend for it to be, but the first time I tried it, I was like, holy fuck, this is so delicious. It's so... Oh, actually, my favorite food besides lobster is crab, because I'd only tried crab recently for the first time, and it was so soft and tender and sweet. I wasn't expecting it to be sweet, right? Like when you think of seafood, usually it's more salty than anything else. But when I tried crab, like actually fresh out of the fucking leg, you know, which is quite brutal, but still, it was so fucking beautiful that I was like, oh my God, expensive taste for real. Landy, crab is your favorite food too? Let's fucking go. It's so good, right? And it's like, there's something about it, like there's also a bit of a ritual in kind of, you know, breaking open the legs and stuff and the claws and trying to get all the meat out of it, right? And just trying to, yeah, almost like work for your meal in a sense. But yeah, it's kind of it's a bit of a special treat for me because it can be quite expensive. And the only time I really get to have crab and lobster is when I go with my parents to like this place here in Victoria called like the Lobster Cave. And it's a very expensive restaurant with like a bunch of seafood. They do it extremely well, but it is very expensive. So we only go when we have like a discount voucher that they sometimes get because my dad's like signed up for the fucking newsletter. And so when we go, we just have this huge buffet of like crab, lobster, scallops, prawns, and this amazing like kind of yellow rice that they do. It's borderline curry rice, but it's just, yeah, it perfectly complements all the seafood as well. And it's honestly my favorite restaurant, right? I get to go there maybe once a year, and it's fucking devastating, but maybe that's why it's so special, you know? I think, because last year I went on my birthday, because I was just asking, please can we go, and they're like, fine. And so it was, yeah, kind of my birthday present to go and eat there. And so I had the lobster there, lobster thermidor, which is my favorite type of lobster. And we didn't have crab though, because I think what happened was they got a voucher that was different to their last one, which didn't include the crab. And I was honestly a little bit devastated, I'm not going to lie. But still, the food was also good that I kind of just forgot about it. But I was like, oh, I really wanted some crab, because it's like, yeah, it's surprising. It's very surprising when you taste it. It's soft. It's like smooth and buttery and sweet. It's got this like touch of like really distant saltiness and then a majority of sweetness. And it's like, how is this possible? It's literally from the depths of the ocean. Well, yeah, you know what I mean. And so my favorite food, and that's not to mention like my favorite of other things, it's usually the most expensive thing in the range. Like when I look at cars on the road, I'm not really a car head or a petrol head, as they say, but sometimes I'll just see a good looking car on the road and be like, oh, that's a nice car. And sometimes, because my sister, she used to live here instead of across the country, she's really big, or she used to be really big into cars, and she'd be like, you know, that's like $500,000, right? And I'd be like, I did not know that. I just thought it looked good, right? And so, yeah. And it's funny you mention this. Who are your favorite poets? Because also, if we're talking kind of like in terms of like expensiveness, Oscar Wilde was kind of like the poster boy of the decadent movement. And so that's literally like, how much more fancy and expensive can you get, right? His whole shtick was about excess and luxuriousness. And so, yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's not by design. Like, I'm not purposefully choosing, oh, what's the most fucking, you know, out of my league rich fucking thing that I can choose. But it's just kind of how it turns out sometimes. It happens with clothes as well. There's this store, I'll show you guys. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's AJE. It's an Australian store. If my thingy will work here. They make some of the most incredible, beautiful dresses that I've ever seen. And they're fucking expensive. So I walk past this store all the time when I go to the shopping mall. And you can see here, like just the first one that grabs my eye, this one there. You go down to the price. It's like, oh, fuck me dead. It's $800. And so I just usually like to window shop and like cry a bunch of tears. But they're so beautiful. Like this one here, the black dress there. And so it's not intentional like this one here. I think I saw this in the window and I was like, I need this, which obviously is not true. You know, I've got more than enough clothes. It was just some kind of deep-seated impulse bubbling up inside me. I saw this exact dress in this exact color in the window. And I was like, I had a pang in my heart. I was like, oh, fuck. You know what I mean? And so why is this like $700? This can't be real. And yeah, they're beautiful. They're beautiful dresses. But again, it's like, why couldn't I just be into like the $1 rack? You know, I actually have quite a few favorites from the $1 rack at like thrift stores, but still, something that catches my eye usually ends up being way out of my fucking league. Like, there's no way I could drop this much money on a singular dress unless I was on like a fucking, I don't know, on a shopping spree, a shopping bender that I would deeply regret in the morning. But I like to look and imagine at least. And so, yeah, look at this. They're like roses. It's so beautiful. Also, the pastel pink is beautiful. And also, you know what? You've actually got a point there. You should learn how to make those and take them out of business. It's funny because I imagine some of these aren't that difficult to make, but it's just about like actually doing it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like someone actually putting in the time and effort to do it and learn how to do it. That is the real expense in a way. And so, you know, you're right. Because some of these are pretty simple. If I go back, let's see. Like some of these are very simple. I'll try and find a good example here. Oh, there's even a longer version of that. It's so beautiful. I'll show you guys what I'm looking at. Oh my gosh, I love these so much. I don't know, what could I feasibly make? Probably none of these, to be quite honest. But my grandma, she's made me dresses in the past. I ended up actually selling one on Depop a while back. I made two, or my grandma made two, and I sold one and kept the other. And I gave her the money for it too, even though she fought me every step of the way. Like this seems pretty, you know, 200 bucks. I agree though, the robes don't make the monk, you're so right. As for how much my wedding dress would end up costing, well, it's basically, you know, Jerma's entire fucking bank account, whatever he's willing to spend on our blissful unionship. Anyway, I really fucking love this brand, and I don't know how to pronounce it, AJE, but it's an Australian brand, and so, yeah, I feel a bit of kinship before crying myself to sleep, because why is a shirt fucking $300, you know? Anyway, sometimes I just scour the thrift stores or like online thrift stores like Depop, and I think there's a couple internationally, but I haven't really checked them out, that sell some of these, and usually they're still expensive, but it stings a little bit less than the full price. And so anyway, so yeah, literally with clothes, cars, food, and basically everything else I can think of, poets as well, I have expensive taste. And also perfume. You guys know the perfume review that we did with the Care Fragrance House, that little like sampler thing that I got for like 400 bucks, which, you know, they had my number, so I couldn't help but fall desperately into their trap. Still, they smell gorgeous, and it was worth every penny, even though I feel very like shy to use it now because I don't want to waste it. I keep it like as a little bit of a display on my bookshelf in the main living room. And so not only does it function as like beautiful perfume, but it's also like a piece of art to look at and enjoy. But that was also very expensive for like 4 20 ml like kind of testers, you know. It was $400, and I can't remember if I also paid shipping for that. I probably did. And so yeah, what can I say, guys? I'm just like a princess put in a middle class body, a middle class family body. But it's okay with me, you know. I think sometimes, and this applies in general actually to multiple facets of my life, turns out that my eyes are often bigger than my stomach. So like I'll see something, whether it's food or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I'm so hungry, I want to eat that, and that. And then I get it all on my plate and end up being full after like the first bite. And so I've had to learn how to be more mindful and just like looking to enjoy without necessarily wanting to have or use or whatever it is, because otherwise I'll just end up, you know, getting a bit in over my head, biting off more than I can chew, to be, you know, to use a very cliche but very true phrase. And so yeah, Riku, thank you so much for being here with us. I hope you enjoyed the affirmations, and we'll see you again soon. Now I'm trying to see here, what am I doing? My Twitch shut down actually. Perfectly relatable. That's hilarious. Welcome in. I saw you followed, by the way. I hope you're well. We're just kind of shooting the shit right now as I am trying to get my life together. I'm so sorry, guys. Here we are. Hey, you have Greek and Egyptian blood, so one of your ancestors was probably a pharaoh or a Greek king. That's hilarious. Honestly, it might be true. It very well might be true. Still, I have no excuse. I can't believe my taste is so fucking, what's the word? It's just so unnecessarily extra. And I literally don't choose it to be that way. I'd prefer it if it wasn't that way. But what can I say? I was going to say something about Egyptian related stuff. Actually, while I was at Parks, yeah, unhinged for real. While I was at Parks, which was the Elvis Festival, I actually got told multiple times that I reminded them / looked like Cleopatra. And that is such an incredible compliment that I was always very taken aback and didn't quite know what to say, because it's like, well, there are differing like accounts of this, of course, but by most people's accounts, Cleopatra was like this very beautiful kind of figure, right? The kind of the princess of Egypt or whatever. And I know people just say that because, you know, I've got Egyptian heritage. They're like, oh, who's the only fucking like Egyptian female that I know? Ah, Cleopatra, right? And so like they say that, and it makes me feel incredibly gratified, and I kind of am at a loss for words sometimes, because I'm like, thank you. That's a very nice thing to say. How am I supposed to respond to that? And so usually I just end up getting flustered and like kind of stuttering and going bright red, you know? But yeah, I've been thinking more about that, and weirdly enough, even though it's a bit of an aside, it's been making me want to get more into my actual Egyptian side, like my Egyptian heritage, because the thing is, this is the story. This is the Emmy Cherry lore, okay? So, my Greek side is on my mum's side, so my maternal side. My mum's side of the family migrated over to Australia, and so I have lots of family members that are Greeks, like from my Greek side. However, my Egyptian side basically is only my immediate family. So now my grandma, my dad, and my uncle, so my dad's brother. So it's kind of weird, right? Because I have a lot of contact with my Greek cousins. Like, you know, you just saw one of my Greek cousins earlier, like at the start of this stream, who popped in to say hello, like my actual cousin. I have a lot of connections. Like I even went to Greek school when I was a kid, even though I hated it, because I didn't want to go to school on Saturday. I can speak a little bit of Greek, little bit of Greek, right? But I can't speak any Arabic. I don't know any Arabic. I don't know anything about my Arabic side, and that's kind of weird. I never really thought about it until recently, and how maybe there's something there, you know, like there's something to that I should explore a little bit more. And of course, my dad, you guys have actually met him, or at least heard his voice on stream. He is very talkative. He could sell sand to the Arabs, as it were, but he's not forceful in that sense. And so, like, he never pushed me or my siblings to go to Arabic school to learn how to speak Egyptian Arabic, and he never pushed us to like get more into our heritage like my Greek side did. So, which is a good thing, because I think it would have pushed me even away from it instead. But it means that now there's kind of a bit of a question mark in front of a lot of that stuff. And it makes me want to explore it a little bit more, you know? Anyway, I'm going to put a pin in that and just like interface more with you guys, because I've been very much in my head this stream. Classified, I appreciate the follow and I appreciate you being here. And yeah, the clothes from before were so beautiful, right? There's a store in the shopping mall that I walk past like every time I go shopping, and I just go, ah, like I just fucking, it's a mix between like desire and just envy, you know? It's a very ugly feeling. And I just think, fuck, I fucking wish, you know? They are very expensive, and they don't really have any sales that I know of. And even if there was a sale, even 50% off would be still way out of my budget. And so it's very, yeah, it's heartbreaking, really. Beautiful, but heartbreaking. And yeah, as for Cleopatra, it's crazy to think about how old ancient Egypt actually is. You've written here, it's crazy because Cleopatra is actually closer to the invention of the iPhone than the construction of the pyramids. This is something that I read once, so please take it with a grain of salt. But I heard that, like, during the time when Cleopatra was around, they were studying ancient Egypt. Like, you know what I mean? Like, ancient Egypt was a thing in slightly less ancient Egypt. And so that's kind of fucking crazy to think about how long humanity has actually kind of been around, right? And so it's just kind of mind-boggling to me. And it's maybe even almost shameful how disconnected I kind of am from the paternal side of my heritage. And I'm not sure if it's by design, Cody, like you say. I think he has millions of stories to share about his relatively brief time compared to his full lifespan now in Egypt. Like I said, he migrated when he was 16. He tells me stories about when he went to the pyramid as a child, and how one single stone was the height of him. You know, he's a short king still, but that's kind of fucking crazy to think about. And he has stories about what it was like back then, which I'm sure have changed, but still, you know, some of the places and stuff like that. It's interesting because I feel like, of course, first and foremost, my identity is Australian. You know, I've got the Australian accent. I was born here. I've lived here my whole life. And my parents have... It's not like they purposefully focused on assimilating, but it's not like they kind of just went with the flow, to be frank. So, like, they tried with Greek school, it didn't quite work out, and they were just kind of like, you know, fuck it, you're going to an Australian school, you're making Australian friends, we're not going to try and force you into one box or another. And so it's kind of like, yeah, it's interesting. I feel like there's sometimes bits and pieces of me, maybe not necessarily missing, but still less actualized than they probably could be. Because, you know, I think there's a lot to be said about connecting with one's own history, not just personal history, but it's like, you know, your parents and their stories and their lives, their wisdom that they're willing to share. And so there's kind of like this big blank box kind of above my head. If you're thinking about like Greek and Egyptian and then Australian in the middle, there's some knowledge there, most knowledge here, and then just like fuzzy, random kind of nothingness, which is sad to me. Because I'm sure my dad has lots to say. And now, of course, my paternal grandmother is, like I was saying, she's very ill. She's like, basically from what we were told, and I won't stay on this for too long because it's just sad and unnecessary, but we were told that she basically has a year to live. So she's functionally like terminally ill, and she doesn't have Alzheimer's, but she has a brain tumor that is kind of mimicking the symptoms of Alzheimer's. So on one hand, it's quote unquote good news because it's like Alzheimer's does not run in our family, but at the same time, her brain tumor is quite obviously inoperable. It's in a very delicate position, and they would do more harm than good by attempting to remove it. And so it's just one of those incredibly fucked up situations, because I remember even like 5 to 10 years ago, she was an incredibly sprightly woman. She, like I said, she made vine leaves for us. She would tell us stories about her time in Egypt and like with the cousins and stuff. Now she doesn't even know how to, you know, chew her own food by herself. And it's fucking harrowing, which is why, you know, I've spent a lot of kind of the end of last year, and of course, you know, this year as well, kind of visiting when I can, because yeah, it's a horrible situation to be in. And again, it's made me realize like I should cherish those moments, not only with my grandma, while I can, but like the little like slivers of my own heritage that I can kind of glean, which is, yeah, it's crazy. It's fucking insane. And I apologize because I'm going to get too in my feels here, but like the reminder of how absolutely fragile we are as humans, it's sometimes enough to just like bring tears to my eyes, because it's like we don't really think about it, I guess, day to day in our lives. We go about our day, we go to work, you know, we drive, and it's like the most fucking scary thing and most important thing that we do every damn day, because it's like a thin, invisible line separating you from incoming traffic. And we don't really think about the fact that one tiny false move and it could all be over, you know? You can get into a car crash or eat some bad sushi, or like, you know, get fucking struck by lightning. It's rare, but it happens, you know? And so it's kind of weird to think about how extremely soft, pliable, fragile, and tender we all are, right? And it's made manifest, I suppose, in my poor grandma, who is literally like, she's like 30 kilograms soaking wet at this point because she can't eat. She physically cannot eat. It's fucking harrowing. But the thing is, like, you know, what can you really do? The main mission right now is for us to make her kind of her last moments here as as comfortable and surrounded by family as possible. And so, yeah, that's why, like, during the day, I want to have my day free in case we go visit or in case I need to do chores. Like, there's lots of stuff to do. It's just like, yeah, it's fucked. And it's, it's something I don't want to put on you guys because it's a downer, isn't it? As real as it is, like as realistic and unfortunately common as it can be. Once you start going through this and like talking to people about it, you realize how common it is, and other people share their own stories. People that have never spoken about it before, you don't realize. Still, it's horrible, and I can't imagine how my dad is feeling as he kind of witnesses the literally the crumbling of his own mother. But yeah, it's just like it's weird, and I hope that I can just make the most of it, like you guys were saying as well, because yeah, it's fucking horrible situation to be in the first place. But yeah, we're incredibly fragile creatures, right? And that's why it makes me feel like I get recentered in terms of my own axioms, which, I talk about that word a lot, axiom. To me, what that is like when you have a belief that is assumed to be self-evident, right? Like if someone were to ask you to justify something, you have no further justification than saying, well, it's just what I believe to be true, right? It's basically belief. There's bedrock there. You can't go any further. So sometimes when people say, oh, why do you like chocolate, for instance, you could maybe explain it. It tastes good. It's like, why does it taste good? Well, it triggers receptors in your brain. Why does it trigger receptors in your brain? And as you keep asking the why, eventually you hit the bottom where you can't explain it anymore. That's kind of what an axiom is. And so my own axiom for how to live life well is to maximize pleasure and minimize suffering, not just for myself, but for, anyone that I could conceivably affect, even if that sounds like an ambitious project, right? And I can't justify that. Like I can't empirically point to why I think that's a good way to be. It just is. And I understand that people have their own axioms, right? Some people have their axiom that like, let's see. I can't think of any besides like money is the root of all evil, or like a Kantian one, which is like lying is always immoral, right? I have sympathies towards the Kantians of the world, but I don't think I'm that severe. In terms of my favorite philosopher, like my favorite writer, it's very funny that I think Oscar Wilde takes the cake. Even if I don't live exactly by his decadent philosophies, it's a very fun and playful way to be, especially if you have the kind of disposable income to kind of play around with, if you know what I mean. Because his whole thing was excess, right? And not just in favor of it, but to see what happens when it goes too far. Like the whole point of A Picture of Dorian Gray, which was his big novel, right? Like the novel of the guy who has this portrait of himself that is kept in like the basement and grows uglier and uglier, which allows the main guy, Dorian Gray, to stay young, youthful, and beautiful forever, essentially. Until, spoiler alert, one day the painting gets discovered and kind of like all slashed up with a knife, and then Dorian is left looking like how he should look, in accordance with the way he's lived, which is, fueled by excess and decadence and overindulgence, and it's not a pretty sight. And so Oscar Wilde is also concerned with the pitfalls of decadence, but in general, thinking about what it means to live entirely devoted to pleasure is a very interesting concept, and it's very counterintuitive to a lot of, I guess, modern day philosophy, which focuses on suffering. And yeah, Space, funnily enough, that's exactly on point. Minimizing pleasure and maximizing pain. It's kind of like a bastardization of that idea of like Buddhism, right? Or like the kind of monk-like discarding of pleasure and desire. I don't think that's the entirety of Buddhism or monkism. I'm not that well versed, but it's like a lot of modern day credibility is lent to people that can somehow shove away their pleasures and desires, instead of just being like, you know what, I do this thing because I like it. It brings me pleasure to look like this, to talk like this, to have these friends and eat these things. Like to fully just lend almost like morality to the concept of pleasure. It's like, it's kind of taboo in a way, because people think, oh yeah, hard work, toil and trouble is the way to reach a kind of a strength of character. But the decadents turned that on its head and said, no, actually, to follow pleasure, to be in the pursuit of pleasure, is what makes someone morally good. They actually believed in pleasure as the highest moral good, even at the expense of everything else. It's like, it's kind of fucked when you think about it. And so, yeah, it's just very interesting. It's potentially unsustainable, right? But it depends what brings you pleasure, right? Yeah, so hedonism, that idea of following pleasure at the expense of everything else, at the expense of your bank account, your friends, your decency and morality, you know, it's like that interesting what if conundrum. What happens if you just fully attack your most deep-seated or even shallowly seated desires? Where do you go? What do you do? Who do you talk to? And my characters, again, like Ada and Odin, I've written about those things as kind of less, well, it's a story, but it's not just a story. It's also just kind of like a philosophical musing. It's like these characters who are terminally ill, right? And so, and again, like the pain thing that we're talking about earlier, Odin, he's quite literally cursed. Like, this is a story in which magic or magical realism is a thing, right? And so because of his curse, he's always fucking hungry, like ravenous, like starving, on the brink of death, starving all the time, no matter what he eats. And so he's in a lot of pain because of that, right? Most people don't know. In fact, basically no one knows except him, because how the hell is he going to explain it? Like where it comes from, why it's happening. And he tries to mend it, right? By starting with eating copious amounts of actual human food, but then moving on, seeing like, oh, maybe if I eat something like inorganic and not meant for consumption, maybe that will help, right? And I think it is, in the story, the only thing that actually kind of takes the edge off, because you see him eat things like fucking whole ukuleles and bonsai trees, and scissors and stuff like that, dangerous things that no one should be ingesting whatsoever. He's discovered that, like, basically he's got this black hole where his stomach should be, and so he can't really he can't focus, he can't think, he can't be a person because of this debilitating pain, unless he like soothes it with these incredibly weird fucking things to eat, right, that soothe his hunger. Eventually he moves on to actual cannibalism, but that's a whole other thing. Whereas Ada, who is the protagonist, the main character of the story, she's the eye, you know, the person that we see the world through. She has a similar but opposite problem where she can't keep any food down. They later realize that their curses are connected, and it's kind of like a yin-yang situation. But she randomly wakes up one day and starts, I guess, whether you want to consider it coughing up or vomiting up these inorganic materials like ukuleles and bonsai trees and scissors, to the point where it's like, it feels like it's tearing up her insides. All she can do is just like stand there in pain while this thing overcomes her until it's done and she's back to normal, seemingly, and she kind of just lives in fear and waits for whenever it seems to happen again, which she can't pinpoint when, where, and why. The whole story is about those two characters figuring out what the fuck is happening, why it's happening, and eventually realizing that it's like connected, like they're connected by this thing. So whatever Odin eats, Ada ends up expelling from herself. And so it's that idea of hedonism, because Odin is completely beside himself. He's like, I'm fucking dying and I can't think past this cloud of pain. And so he just ends up being an awful person for a lot of the time. He does what he wants, he says what he wants, because he feels like he's, again, terminally ill. So he doesn't give a fuck. He breaks girls' hearts. He functionally cheats on his girlfriend. He imagining he does worse, he steals, and he literally eats a girl at one point, like not in the fun way, in the actual, like, you know, cannibal way. And so he's like, you know, he's very far gone. But again, it's about that idea of what happens to someone when their whole life becomes just one ball of pain. How do you function as a person when you're just fucking, you're overcome by this thing, right? Ada has got a similar problem. She is I think she's at least somewhat better at functioning, but she's still, yeah, at the mercy of this curse of hers, and also at the mercy of her slight crush, I suppose, on Odin, who's like an old high school kind of, not exactly flame, but like a person of interest of hers that she'd always liked, but had never really had a chance to make a move on for whatever reason. And so there's two things there. She's like, we're comparing the kind of the violence of her curse with the violence of her lust, and how those two can sometimes just be completely interchangeable, right? And the violence of Odin's curse and the violence of his consumption, the way he just literally devours everything in his path, literally and metaphorically, the way he leads girls on, the way he is kind of like pushy and argumentative sometimes, but also the thing is, like, he's so fucking sweet when he wants to be. So it's like, you know, it's this idea of how someone's true nature, if you want to call it that, can peek through in the moments where maybe their more base feelings and desires and necessaries, that's not a word, but you know what I mean, can like cool down a little bit, just enough for their true self to peek through, and you realize, oh shit, this is actually, even though this person's a horrible person, they're actually just a sad, fragile, hurting person inside. And that's why they're like that, even though it's no excuse. It's, yeah, just an added explanation. And so those characters mean a lot to me for those reasons, because, again, they're people in the sense that they're characters living lives, but it's more about like a philosophical understanding of like hedonism, its pitfalls and its kind of its pros, in a sense, PROS, like what you can take from it and maybe use to enrich your life versus what will be potentially harmful, hurtful to your life. Because if you just solely chase pleasure, you might end up in a bit of trouble, whether it's alienating your friends and family or ending up, yeah, just like, you know, burning out, or being left numb, like Hargis was saying, because you kind of get just stuck on that hedonistic treadmill where nothing becomes enough. But yeah, that idea that still pleasure can be utilized like a tool, to be enjoyed, to be motivating, to be gifted. You know, you can do something to bring someone else pleasure, and I know that sounds scandalous, but I mean, like, you can take someone's bins out, or you can give someone a massage, or you can gift them something that they really like, and that's like a form of hedonistic pleasure, or it can be. And it's just about scale, I suppose, like how much you want to crank up the severity, how much you can before it gets dangerous, or yeah, like the little maybe manageable ways that you can bring it into your lives. So, and yeah, Cody, you're right. House is a great example. He's very toxic, but he is very, very he's a pained individual deep on the inside, and he's actually self-harming in the ways that he interacts with people. He pushes them away so they can hate him enough that he doesn't have to push them away overtly. Like, he just assumes that people will hate him enough that to not even get close. And so, yeah, I feel a lot for his character, even though he's done some fucked up things. Like, he said some horrible things, he's done some horrible things, but ultimately you see the kind of damaged person on the inside, and how there's still little flashes of whether it's brilliance or humanity there, and you recognize that humanity in your own self, thinking, well, the only thing that's separating me from House is the fact that I'm lucky enough not to have a completely fucked leg. You know what I mean? If I had a leg like his, maybe I'd be like him. Who's to say? I don't know. There's something to be said about someone's own personality and their tendencies to fall into, like, whether it's depression or pessimism or whatever, stubbornness. Because I think House had the option to amputate his leg, but he didn't want to because he just didn't want to, you know? And so it's like, well, maybe that wouldn't have been me, right? But still, pain can do fucked up things to people. And really any severity of an emotion can cloud one's judgment. So I don't feel like I'm above any of that. If I was in enough pain, I could become a horrible, horrible individual. Very similar to Ada and Odin. Like, maybe even worse. And maybe that's why I write about them, because I'm scared. I'm like, I hope that's not how I am. You know, it's like I'm writing out my most deepest, scared parts of myself that I hope if I write them out, maybe I can kind of purge them from me and like separate them from me, even though that's functionally impossible. You can't fully get rid of an aspect of yourself. You can maybe just like dilute it or like manage it somehow, you know? And so, yeah, it's interesting and it's human. It can be scary though. And so, yeah, I don't know, it's just like, it's fascinating to me. And I try not to pass on judgment. You know, when I say someone's a horrible character or a horrible person, it's like, it's less about who they are and more about what they've done in a sense. Because I don't think someone is fundamentally horrible. I think it's more based on your pattern of outcomes, and there's the utilitarian side of me breaking through. There's always chance for redemption, for the most part. I know someone could just come in concerned trolling and be like, oh, what about Hitler? It's like, we're not talking about Hitler, you know what I mean? But like, for the most part, for the average individual, like there's always ways to come back out of whatever it is, like House. You just have to like show up and do the work, you know? And so I feel like, yeah, it's comforting. And it's something that I like to see in people, the potential of someone to do good things. Because otherwise, what are you left with? It's a little bit sad if you can't see past your immediate kind of horizon, you know? I think it's nice to be able to see the what if. Sometimes it's maddening when there's like a million different paths to choose from. But in general, to see like the beautiful potential in people is like, it's a nice way to be, at least in my opinion. It leaves room for a lot of playfulness and a lot of unexpectedness, usually for the better. So yeah, it's kind of, I don't know. By this point, it's just something that I do without thinking. But it's something that you can also cultivate if you're not that way inclined naturally, but you want to be. And so, yeah. I don't know. Like, does that make sense? Are we on the same page, or have I gotten spiraled too deep? That's up to you guys to decide. Johnny asking if you should get a haircut. That's up to you, my friend. I mean, long hair is a vibe. It depends how long it is, but I really like long hair. On anyone, really. But if you're gonna get a haircut, make sure you don't get that post-haircut regret. It's real. It's too real. It's so real that it was even on the card game monikers, so that's how you know it's official. Nowadays, I don't get that at all because I have my hair cut by a friend. He's pretty damn good, even though he's not a hairdresser. That's just his own thing. Getting a buzz cut with blonde coloring. That sounds pretty cool. If you do end up doing that, then you're welcome to post a selfie in our server. And we can all say, that was amazing. No post-haircut regret. Yeah. Helio, I'm glad that you enjoy these conversations. It's like really just one long ramble. But I think sometimes there's like interesting little points of, yeah, I don't know, philosophy to be gleaned, hopefully. Sometimes getting lost is part of the process too, you know? Like, I get lost when I start talking, and then we kind of hopefully find our way back around. Or if not, then it's okay too. But yeah, that's kind of what we're doing right now is part of the work. Like, learning how to actually take the thoughts in your brain, which are usually all, at least for me, all bundled up and jumbled up and kind of like all knotted together, and trying to like pick out a singular train of thought very delicately and slowly so you can actually articulate what is happening up here, because a lot of people struggle with that, and it leads to a lot of unnecessary, I think, conflict sometimes. because people maybe have good intentions, but it's about the way or the not way that they say whatever it is they're trying to get across. But anyway, guys, I'm just in one of those moods. I usually watch my thoughts from 20 feet away. That's funny. That's a very meditative way to do it. Like to observe without engaging is kind of the tenet, or one of the tenets of meditation, right? It's like you just like sit there and let thoughts flow without like attaching any kind of moral or judgment values to them. Just let it all flow like a river, nice and wide and open and free flowing. I am not the best person to talk about when it comes to meditation because it's a practice that I haven't fully mastered yet, in the sense that like I don't have the current patience to do it, even though I know that it's very good to do. And like people say, if you can't find 20 minutes to meditate, then you need 40. You know, it's like, it's a thing that we know is good for us, in the same vein as exercising and, getting fucking sunlight and getting all your nutrients and vitamins. But at the same time, it's so hard to put into practice, especially once, like we were talking about before, we're so conditioned to want that kind of immediate gratification. I'm no exception to that. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool if you don't meditate. I was just saying that's a kind of meditative practice, to observe without engaging. It's like, our thoughts are simply that, thoughts. A lot of people, I think, believe that their thoughts are what makes them them, like I don't know what makes someone a person, but their thoughts are just like kind of an incidental thing that happens. And then it's really about what you do with those thoughts that matters, especially if we're talking about like materialistic, utilitarian terms, You can have a thought like, oh my gosh, I'm going to swerve my car into oncoming traffic, which is like more of an intrusive thought. But as long as you don't do that, then I think you're in the clear. And so, yeah. It's a weird thing. Sometimes our thoughts can feel like they're not from us, they're from someone else. And that's another experience entirely. I can't really speak too much on that. I think something that's helped me is to attempt at least to work in tandem with them. And a lot of the times if you ask your body, or even if you ask your mind what's wrong, if you pay a little bit of attention, it will reveal itself to you. And that's why I think like the body scanning technique is really helpful. And so like you can ask yourself, you close your eyes and just like ask yourself, am I hurting anywhere right now? Is anything aching? Is anything too hot, too cold, uncomfortable, itchy? And then as you just pause there and kind of like feel yourself scanning through different sections of your body, you can like notice things. It's all about the noticing, right? That you may not have noticed before. And I think that's a worthwhile practice to do just, every now and again. You don't even have to like find a dedicated time or place to do it. You just do it wherever you are. Just close your eyes and just ask yourself. Because if you ask, you shall, ask and you shall receive. Your body will tell you and will hopefully end up like, helping relieve some stress or figuring out that actually, yeah, I am kind of uncomfortable sitting like that. Let me just change my position, So, yeah. But trust me, I'm no guru, so take it with a grain of salt. Right now, it's telling me you're very beautiful. That's a nice thing to say. Thank you very much. Yeah, I feel like you guys are very generous. So, all I can say is thank you. And although I can't see you guys, I know just from our conversations that each and every one of you are also your own beautiful lights. When I say beautiful, I mean like that kind of beautiful that comes from someone's, not to get too corny, like their soul, There's no ugliness here, my friend. Honestly, it reminds me of that Roald Dahl quote about how like it doesn't matter how you look, but if you have nice thoughts about yourself and other people, like that niceness will shine through. I didn't shave for 2 weeks. You know, I'm into that kind of look. If you're talking about like that rugged bearded look, I could get behind that. And so yeah, you know, it's just like it's one of those things. Sometimes beauty is like it's about how you can make someone feel. And that's I think why words like aura and stuff have really popped off. Because what is aura if not like a very spiritual loan word? You know, it's kind of like the way about you. And the way about you is often the way that you make other people feel too. But yeah. While I do admire the physical state of Emmy, it's the heart and mind that I appreciate the most. Thank you, Cody. You guys are very sweet. Yeah, what can I say? It's sad for me, but we'll be raiding out in about 20-ish minutes. So let me know if you guys have any raid recs. But until then, find a nice way to kind of wind down. Because I know this stream has been very cerebral. And I didn't even do any fucking unpacking, guys. But let me show you something cool, actually. While I was kind of looking through my parents' stuff when I went to their place yesterday, I found this, which is a fucking tome and a half. This is not one of those prop books with like a fucking flask in the middle. This is an actual book. And it's the complete tales and poems of Edgar Allan Poe. And I think I originally gifted this to my brother, but he never really got past the 25th page. See, there's a little bookmark there. So that's fine. You know, it's ours now. And maybe in the future we can have a little reading session based on some of the poems. I know once on stream we read Nevermore. What's that poem called? Fuck, how can I forget this? This is the most iconic poem of Edgar Allan Poe's. The Raven. So it's yeah, thank you, Cody. So it's like, you know, all of his poems and all of his stories in one gigantic, beautiful book. I remember reading, I think, like the Mask or something. Oh, the Telltale Heart. Like the Mask of Death or something like that. And the Conversation of Eros and Carmion. That's interesting. Yeah, so this could be a fun little project. On the back it says, quote the Raven, nevermore. As well as some other books that I've been meaning to get through. You know, to kind of put that droning voice to some use besides my own rambling thoughts. We could have like a dedicated reading segment. I was going to say reading hour, but I don't know how that would go down. Because it's a fun way to do a bit of double duty in the sense that not only do I get some reading in, but I can spend time with you guys and everyone's happy. And those of you that like need to get to sleep, then that can hopefully do the trick. Depending on what it is we're reading, of course. If it gets intense, then maybe it'll be a nail biter, but still. There's also, yeah, plenty cool things to see in the future. Though I will say, I'm excited for when/if we complete this. Because I'm kind of sick of wearing my streaming uniform currently as it stands. I'm not gonna lie. Because I realize, yeah, like, if I'm just already wearing a new outfit every stream, then this is kind of unnecessary. But still, there's a slight form of torture to wear the same kind of outfit every single stream for however long. But we'll get through it. Don't you guys worry. And yeah, like I said, when my friend joins us, we'll have a small, like a humble donation goal. And if we reach it, then she might get to draw us a picture of your choosing. So like, however we can democratically decide whether it's something outlandish and crazy or, you know, our tried and true something in the hat, then you guys will get to see firsthand the incredible artistry of my one of my closest friends. Changing once a week is probably a good idea. Yeah, I think that might become necessary because, you know, this I will actually just have to fucking, I don't know, not burn, but maybe just throw away for a while until I feel like looking at it again. Even though I like blue a lot, but it's just, I don't know. Sometimes I just start to feel it's like eating the same food every day. You know, it's fine for a while, especially if it's a food you really like. This is one of my favorite jumpers, but like eventually something flips, and the monotony just all seems to crash down at once. So, yeah. A softcore form of torture. We'll see how long I can stand it for. Yeah, we can get her to draw anything. A drawing of me compared to like the caricature maybe would be interesting, because you guys will also get to see this once the goal has been reached. And with the caricature, actually, I think it's very, I think the artist went easy on me compared to, yeah, usual caricature drawings, which are highly exaggerated and like sometimes quite unflattering. The drawing itself is exaggerated, but it's rather benign in terms of what features of mine he could have chose to exaggerate, you know? I think it's a good like mix of being very obviously kind of like a cartoon, but also reflecting some of my most obvious qualities. And so I can't wait for you guys to see that too. And so let me just say again, thank you to Weasel. I don't know if he's still around. And C Lockett as well, who have gotten us this far, and also another friend of our streams who have contributed to this goal. It's a rather ambitious one, actually. So, yeah, it's like, it's always a bit of a campaign, and I don't know if I'm that great of a campaigner. Actually, it depends what for. But yeah, it's like, sometimes it happens all at once, and sometimes it takes a bit more to get going. But either way, whenever we reach that finish line, I think it'll be a fun fucking experiment. I'm gonna have to finally put my stylist hat to good use, you know? Doing something like this, streaming online, you have to wear a bunch of different hats. I don't know, I feel like I've been neglecting my stylist hat for a hot minute, but now I'll be forced to like put different outfits together, so that's gonna be cool. Cody says, one of my other streamer friends wants to draw Jen. Oh my gosh, that would be so cool. It's nice because Jen is always drawing other people and other characters. Sometimes it's nice to have the kind of the artist reflected in kind of the same medium that they normally use. That's why I'm always very flattered when people write me poems, because I know how much effort goes into it. I'm like, damn, you thought of me and you like made this for me. It's very, very flattering. And so I can totally see why. She's also a very photogenic, that's the word, person. I'm sorry, the reason why I stumbled on that is because I have this meme with my brother that he has a photogenic memory, when obviously the word is photographic, but it's just like something that we started saying because he like quite almost literally he has a photographic memory. Like he can read something in a textbook and then like months later recall exactly word for word what it said. And so like he remembers stuff from conversations ages ago, and I'm like, how the fuck did you remember that? And he's like, I don't know. And so photogenic, I always get that confused with photographic, but yeah, Jen is quite photographic as well. And so yeah, I hope she's all right. I hope she's healing up all right. So, oh yes, and we need to stretch. We didn't stretch from before when Martinez requested it. So here we go. Will I be streaming tomorrow? I hope so. Wait, what's the day tomorrow? Friday. I've been tossing and turning over whether or not to go back to the once every second day schedule, but I really want to attempt the full-time schedule. So we're going to keep going for now with the every single day schedule until I realize this is a fucking stupid idea or until I realize actually this could work. Especially now that I've solidified 8 p.m. as the starting time. Because before I was like, oh, maybe I should stream during the day, but then I was like, no. I will see you guys tomorrow unless I write a little thing in the server saying, oh, guys, actually, I'll see you the day after. Probably not on Sunday because I am going to philosophy club, like I said, but maybe Saturday. Did I say Sunday? Not on Sunday, maybe on Saturday, and yes, tomorrow, which is Friday. And so yeah, if you guys are interested in hearing more of my rambles and rants and raves, that's where, when and where you can find me. Let's see. I will start looking for a raid rec now, unless you guys have any like recommendations of yourselves, and let's see. We're almost hitting our 1720 follower goal. That's a weird way to say that, but that's very flattering. And holy shit, when are we gonna do Jackbox? Should we do that on the weekend? Yeah. Okay, let's do that on Saturday. So, no matter what, if I stream tomorrow or not, we'll have that. And yeah, we'll get some prizes as well. Let's see. Ariala's live. Elu's live. T-Bear. Are you greasy? Quali. I'm an ex in Ferret Software. We could pick someone random. Oh, Space has a rec here. Let me check him out real quick. Is it Laura? Sorry, I'm just in ads right now. Playing, what is this? Oh my god, making a fucking Switch 2 trailer, what's it called? Bingo board. That's right up my fucking alley. Why the hell not? Laura K. Buzz. Alright. Thank you for the rec, Space. Okay. And thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. I'll see you guys soon. If I can't, yeah, stream tomorrow, it'll be the day after. And we're gonna have lots of fun on the weekend playing Jack's Box, and the weekend after that as well, my friend. So, let's see. Jackbox, that's right. Laura K. Buzz. Cool. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you soon. Behave, or at the very least, don't get caught. I will, yeah. I will see if I can get some dinner sorted. Take care. Hugs and kisses. Cugs and hisses. And, I love you all very, very much. Mwah. Enjoy this stream ending slide, the funky music, and make sure to send lots of love to Laura. I want to actually stick around to see what else might happen in the Switch 2 trailer. So maybe we'll make one of our own in the next stream. Anyway, take care. I love you all so much. Ding!